Angela Schmida to provide the update to the town council. Angela, her day job, her job before last March, vice president for student success at Menlo College, and as of March of 2020, she took on another hat, which was to chair our pandemic planning team, which is a hat she still wears. I don't. Oh, good. She smiled. Always a good sign. And she developed the presentation. So with that, I will turn the mic to Angela and ask her to take it from there.
Angela, just one quick second. I just want to remind everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute so that we don't have any background noise, which then would throw your image up on the screen and instead of Angela's. So, all right, we'll all mute our mics right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having us come today. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the City Council. As you know, it's been an unprecedented year, certainly the most unusual that I've ever had in my almost 30 years in higher education. So the pandemic has had a tremendous impact on our campus community. And I know we've done quite a bit to help make the lives of our students better throughout this process. But we also recognize that we're part of the broader Atherton community, and we thought it would be useful for you all to see what's going on campus. There are some people there, not everybody's here, so we'll give you an update on what is happening there. So this is, I think, the wrong slides. This is from, I think, a prior meeting. But I have the slides up, if I can just share, would that work? If I can share screen?
You should be able to.
Okay, let me just do that then. Excellent. Okay. Can everybody see that? Fantastic, great. Just to give you a sense for where we are with the spring semester, our status is we moved 100% remotely online. We continued that from the prior spring semester. And boy, our faculty, and I'm looking at Bill Widmer because he's been one of our Menlo College faculty at times, they really managed to pivot well and continue to address the needs of our students and move everything remotely on Zoom. We have had still 250 residential students on campus. This is primarily student athletes who came here to train, as well as some students who just didn't have anywhere else to go. They either had emergency housing needs or international students who were really challenged with the time zone difference in terms of taking classes online. So just a small number of students that we did have on campus. In addition, there were 100 local students that were coming, who were student athletes participating in our very carefully coordinated on-campus athletic training that we had. Those students were all given rigorous testing. We also, for the students who were living on campus, we worked in reduced density housing, and we put students in pods so that those who were training together were also eating together. And so we really limited the amount of exposure that students had to each other, but while still allowing them to continue to be students and to socialize and to interact as well. I'll talk more about our in-person commencement that we are planning, as well as the camps and conferences that we will plan for later in the summer. But this is kind of where we are now. Students are just wrapping up, and we'll have finals here in the next couple of weeks. Really important to our success was our testing, tracing, and quarantine program. Early on in the pandemic, we consulted with public health experts to create our TTQ plan, and that was really one of the best decisions that I think we made. According to the public health consultants that we worked with, we had probably a much more rigorous plan than most colleges in the areas did, and I think that has served us well. All the students, whether they live on campus or are just coming to train, are required to test twice weekly. So we were able to get all the waivers and clearances to actually set up our own testing center on site, which has been wonderful. And we also have faculty and staff who are able to get tested. The residential students, when they moved in on January 9th, they were all required to quarantine initially as a travel quarantine. And then once they were cleared through testing, they were able to move into their regular dorm room. So that really helped us create that bubble on campus. If any students were exposed or identified as a close contact per the CDC guidelines, we also had quarantine and isolation housing that was set aside and some supports built in for them as well. Then result of all of that, amazingly enough, out of 250 students living on campus since January, we've only had 2 positive COVID-19 tests on campus. We did have some visitors coming and some students who were coming off on campus who were screened out, basically had just a small handful of positive tests, and those students went home. But we really managed to create this safe on-campus bubble, and we've slowly been able to allow students to have more freedom so that they can socialize and interact as students. Part of that was athletic training. For those of you familiar with Menlo College, you know that about 45% of our student population is student athletes. Any of you who are student athletes in college know how important that part of the experience is for the college experience. And we had just come off 2019 2 national championships. So athletics is pretty important at Menlo, and the students really missed those opportunities. They wanted to get together. So we decided to bring them back just for the sports performance and the team development aspects of it. We decided early on, we made the tough decision not to engage in competitive play because the schools we would have been competing against did not have the strict guidelines and quarantine and testing protocols that we had. And we felt that was just too dangerous for our own campus. And I think as we look at what happened at other colleges, we feel like we made the right choice. We are having our first exhibition games this weekend on campus outside, and these are only Bay Area teams that we are also engaging in similar rigorous protocols and testing as well. But there'll be no qualifying competitions until fall. So you might just see some activity around students actively engaging in sports if you're driving around and passing by our athletic fields. Other things that we're doing to support our students, as I mentioned earlier, we have about 250 students who are on campus, and the rest of them are spread out all around the world with various needs and various issues, and they're adapting to the pandemic in really different ways. Early on in the summer, after the murder of George Floyd, we formed a social justice task force. This was largely driven by some demands from students as well that really forced us to take a closer look at how we're dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion and social justice. And I think we've made numerous strides forward. Part of that was we participated through the Ohio State University and the Divided Communities Project Academy. We had a team on campus, and we were really excited to have Commander Joe Wade from the Atherton Police Department be part of that, as well, as we recognize that this is a broader issue outside of campus. So those initiatives will continue as well. And they're also in the context of, in case the City Council didn't know, but in 2019, we were actually designated as a Hispanic serving institution, as well as an Asian American and Native American Pacific Islanders serving institution. So Menlo College is quite diverse, and it's much more diverse than it has been probably in decades prior, for those of you familiar with that. We really benefited from CARES Act funding. Students had great financial need throughout the pandemic. We were able to provide emergency housing for some students who needed it. We also discovered through some of our student surveys of needs that close to a quarter of our students indicated that they had sometimes or all the time some food insecurity. So we were in the process of setting up a food bank on campus to allow students to have regular access to food that they might need that. And we also received a community grant through the Rotary Club of Menlo Park, which is supporting that effort. We engage students virtually, Zoom, just like what we're doing now. We've done quite a bit of that, and also tried to provide some on-campus in-person engagement for students who were here. The picture you're looking at here, this was one of our staff members hosted a cross-stitching workshop for students who wanted to take a break from looking at screens and rather wanted to get crafty. So we did a number of things like that to help keep students engaged. And we expanded mental health support services, particularly to be available more virtually, as you've probably been reading in the headlines. Certainly the mental health issues for everyone, but particularly for this age group has certainly increased over time. In the midst of all this, we have managed to start construction on our new 288-bed residence hall. We're thrilled to be able to do that, as it's the first new campus building that we've been able to construct in over 40 years. This is one of the most expensive zip codes in the nation, and we are really excited to be able to expand our affordable housing options for our students. And for the broader community, this also helps us reduce the traffic to and from campus from the commuter traffic. We're really grateful for the support of the Atherton community in terms of approving this project and supporting the break. And we invite you to the groundbreaking, even though you see that the ground has been broken, more or less. The official groundbreaking will be on May 13th. And we hope that some of you will be able to attend that. We're planning that in conjunction with our Board of Trustees meeting. And how long will that take? Our target is the spring of 2022, hoping to move students in shortly thereafter. And in-person commencement. Last year, we had to do a virtual commencement, which was an incredible disappointment, not just to the graduating seniors, but to all of us who really like to see the students' accomplishments as they walk across the stage. We're so pleased to have Maya Satora as our commencement speaker this year. For those of you who don't know who she is, she's Barack Obama's sister, and we have had a couple of meetings with her to discuss what she's going to say to our students, and she's really a delightful person. We will be celebrating both the class of 2020 and the class of 2021 to give last year's class an opportunity to come back for a proper in-person celebration. What will be different for the broader community, if any of you who happen to drive by in commencements past, you know how crowded our campus can get. We necessarily have to reduce the capacity. So in prior years, we've never limited capacity. Some students brought quite large families and groups of friends to commencement, but this year they're limited to only 2 per graduate. We're going to set them up in family pods on the quad, spaced apart appropriately. And the graduates, before they line up, will also need to ensure that they've been properly tested with COVID testing. And we have canceled any of the typical after ceremony types of gatherings that we've had. So this will allow students to celebrate, but still do so within the safe public health guidelines. Summer and early fall events that you can look forward to. We are bringing back JCC. We've had them in years past as well. They're planning to be here for June and July. So you'll see small children running around if you happen to be on campus. Our own Rising Scholars program. This is where we bring small groups of students back about 10 days before school starts to help them prepare for that transition to college. First day of classes are officially August 23rd, so you'll see much more activity around that time. I hope some of you were able to attend the Silicon Valley Sculpture 2020 event last September. We are bringing that back by popular demand this fall, September 24th through 26th. I hope you mark your calendars and attend that. This is in conjunction with an art gallery downtown that's owned by Katharina Powers, and it's a fundraising event as well. So we welcome you to campus to see the fantastic artwork that she arranges for that. So those are the primary updates, but certainly happy to field any questions that you may have or comments.
Thank you so much, Angela. It was a great presentation. I see that Councilmember DeGoya has his hand raised and would like to ask a question.
Yes, and I have a question. You said the groundbreaking is on May 13th. What time is that?
Stephen, what time is that scheduled for? Look that up.
Or if you just let us know, that would be great. It's a big day.
There we go. 5:15 to 6:15.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Mayor Lewis will be one of our speakers. Thank you again for that.
You're very welcome. I'm honored. I'm very honored. How many graduates do you expect combined with last year and this year?
165.
Combined?
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
That's fine. Any other council member have a question? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just a sort of a broader question, which I'm intrigued about the impact of the COVID, the pandemic. Is it going to have any long-term consequences for the campus in your view, either in terms of funding or redesign of things or any other way?
So clearly an open question, and one where we've been very clearly struggling with to try and look through that crystal ball. We've been very fortunate relative to so many, in particular small colleges and universities through this time. Our enrollment has stayed strong. Right now, it looks like our enrollment for the fall will be quite good, but between a strong entering class and continuing students. The biggest unanswered question yet is the economic fallout, not on the college directly, but indirectly because of the economic fallout on the families of our students. And that's clearly an issue that we're already grappling with, but there's been significant support from the federal government through what they called the Higher Education Emergency Relief Funding that was provided over the course of the last year, that has not just helped us directly, but helped the families of our students, which has kept them, made it possible for them to continue their journey through higher education. What will happen next fall is an unknown. If in fact we see that the economic stress on our families is still a factor we need to address, clearly our hope would be that would be a relative short term, as in a year, as opposed to multi-years. We believe that the experience of this pandemic, as painful as it has been and still is, has taught us some useful lessons with respect to what we can do in the classroom to incorporate different technology and engage people in different ways. So we think that will actually make us stronger.
Thank you. Thank you. I see that Councilmember Widmer has his hand raised for a question, and then Councilmember DeGolia, and then I'll open it up to the members of the public to ask questions. Councilmember Widmer?
Yeah, so I just would like to add a few things that perhaps weren't in their presentation. They are, actually it came out today, the staff and the students will need to have been vaccinated to get back on campus next semester, which is great achievement as well, making people, actually encouraging them to go get that. And then as the president mentioned, they've made a big investment in these classrooms. I've talked to some of you about it, where they have the cameras and you can work on the blackboard and talk to the students all through Zoom, and even have some, as I've mentioned to you, I've had some students actually come into the classroom when I'm teaching there. But the number of their classrooms have been upgraded with a lot of high-tech equipment, and they really recovered and applied the new technology very, very quickly. So I just wanted to say that because Stephen didn't want to ring his own bell there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Bill.
Councilmember. Councilmember DeGolia, unmute.
Yeah, I think it was said at the beginning of the presentation, but I missed it. I did get that there were 250 students on campus throughout the pandemic period, but what is the total admitted student population?
We're currently right around 800. If things hold for the fall, we'll probably be about 850.
Yeah,
Okay.
some of the unknowns are around international students and their ability to get visas and actually travel here.
Yeah.
All right. I do want to give members of the public an opportunity to ask a question or make a comment to President Weiner and Angela, Menlo College. If not, I want to thank you all. Thank you very much. We're very excited. As a close neighbor of yours, I honestly, am excited about the new dorm. I think that over the last few years, the improvements that you've made to the college have been outstanding, and just raising the level of education and experience. And I congratulate you. And I see somebody with a chat. Oh, I think this is our city clerk giving members of the public their instructions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. We do have another presentation I'd like to
Okay.
roll right into. Thank you very much, and look forward to May.
Thank you.
Mhm. So our next presentation is by the Peninsula Clean Energy regarding REACH codes. We will look forward to hearing from them. And who is going to present?
Rafael Reyes, I believe.
Oh,
Yes, Raphael's here. Hi,
oh,
Raphael.
good. There you are. I see you now. Okay, thank you.
Hello, council members. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Rafael Reyes, Director of Energy Programs for Peninsula Clean Energy. I appreciate you inviting me to speak to you with regards to building REACH codes. I will share my screen. First, a little bit of background on Peninsula Clean Energy. I'm sure most of you are familiar with us, but we are San Mateo County's primary energy service provider. We're a nonprofit, not-for-profit public agency, joint powers agreement. And our mission is to reduce greenhouse gases by expanding access to sustainable and affordable energy solutions. And we're pleased to have already delivered $18 million a year in annual savings to residents and businesses throughout the county through our lower cost energy service. And what I'm here to speak to you today is on local enhancements to building codes, what are generally called REACH codes. The REACH codes are an opportunity to enhance the building codes for a variety of reasons. Many local governments adopt REACH codes on a range of different matters, from fire safety to other issues. And here in this case, Peninsula Clean Energy is supporting local governments in relation to building electrification and electric vehicle charging, both of which with the intention of delivering both economic and environmental benefits. And this is specifically for new construction. These REACH codes provide a number of benefits for residents and businesses. There's significant economic value, particularly on the electric vehicle side, as well as opportunities for safer and healthier homes, and significant opportunities for reducing greenhouse gases. And again, this is specifically in relation to new construction. And just to call out, one of the economic benefits that we've modeled, if we reach our target of 45,000 electric vehicles by 2025, that will deliver in excess of $50 million a year in savings to residents from lower fueling costs to the vehicle. So it's a very significant opportunity. In terms of health benefits, there is quite a bit of research indicating that fossil fuel combustion in homes has significant health impact, particularly with asthma. There are other issues associated with safety and from fires that can result from stoves and other combustion. And this is another area where we see significant benefit from moving to all electric homes. As a result of these opportunities for benefits for residents and businesses, Peninsula Clean Energy, in partnership with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which covers most of Santa Clara County, have been in partnership now for 2 years, supporting local governments in the adoption of these REACH codes, and have been providing model codes as well as technical assistance and funding support. And we have consulting partners that we're working with, ENVGL, TRC, and Energy Solutions, and a number of cities have already moved forward. In our service territory, 23 local governments have already moved forward with REACH codes, and we account for half of the REACH codes that have been adopted statewide. And I'll talk more about the specifics of the support later on in the presentation. I'm going to briefly talk about the specifics of the model codes as we have developed them. But I should note that all the local governments have adapted those codes based on their specific needs, and our technical support is specifically geared for assisting local governments in adapting the codes. Just briefly, one other note on the benefits. One of the improvements that all electric construction brings is lower costs of construction by not having to plumb buildings, put the additional meters, associated venting, and other requirements around natural gas. There is cost savings associated with construction. And in fact, these and other data led the University of California to adopt an all-electric standard for all of their construction across all their building types, which are quite diverse. There are three major models for electric building reach codes. The first is what's been colloquially called natural gas ban, best known for the approach that the city of Berkeley took. The natural gas ban basically prohibits gas hookups, so it's via municipal ordinance with a limited number of exceptions. So that's one approach. A limited number of agencies are pursuing that approach. There is what's being termed the all-electric required approach. This is through the energy code, where appliances are required to be electric, with certain exceptions. The model code that we provides exceptions with associated with multifamily central water heating, also where there may not be a compliance pathway. Restaurants, many cities are interested in providing flexibility to restaurants, and in many cases, cities have also, just for residences, also allowed gas stoves. And then there is another model, all electric preferred, which basically provides for either mixed fuel or all electric buildings, but has higher requirements on mixed fuel buildings, which frankly favor than all electric design. At this point in both counties, we have a very limited adoption of this particular model. This slide has quite a bit of data, so I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, and just call out a couple items. One is there are very substantial cost studies that have been done around all electric versus buildings with natural gas, and where all of the measures have been looked at to see where there are differences in construction costs and differences in operating costs. The real takeaways are in the top right-hand portion, which basically summarizes that an all-electric home, and this is an average California all-electric home, 2,500 square feet. I know that Atherton homes are larger, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But typical new home in California would save over $10,000 in construction costs and see a modest increase of utility bills of about $7 a month. And you can see then looking at the diagram itself at the top of the water heater, and that's primarily due to the water heater if installed under normal standard conditions. But if you have more solar, or if in fact you do a smart water heater, those costs can also be mitigated. Let me talk briefly about the EV code. This may have less applicability to Atherton because it's primarily residential, as single-family residential as opposed to multifamily and commercial. But here, there are three major levers associated with electric vehicle options: the speed of charging from level 1, which is a standard outlet, to what's sometimes termed level 3 or fast charging, which are like Tesla superchargers. Different levels of readiness from EV capable, which basically says there's a panel and conduit, to EV ready, which is a completed circuit. and EV charger installed, which has the full end box with the cable and so forth. And then the number of spaces that are accommodated. Tier 2, there are cost benefits of adding EV charging at the time of new construction. I won't go through all of these cost details except to say it's substantially more expensive, not surprisingly, to wait to install EV charging after a building is built. The model codes that PCE provides includes 3 major categories. Single family, where here on this table is a comparison between the state code, that's the 2019 Cal Green, and the PCE model code, what we describe as a plug and play reach code. In the case of single family, the requirement is a 1 level 2 EV capable space. And that means, again, that there's panel capacity and conduit, but not a completed circuit. And the PCE model code says a completed circuit for both level 2 and a completed level 1 circuit as well. So a minimum of 2 vehicles can be served by these circuits. Atherton may be more similar to Portola Valley, which actually has 2 level 2 circuits as requirements in their jurisdiction. Multifamily, here we're looking through the model code to provide service to all residential dwellings within multifamily. So 100% of the dwellings have at least 1 electrified space. And as you can see, there are differing levels here. So first 20 units, level 2, and then a split of 25 and 75. And the intention here is to provide, again, service to all the residents, but also manage the costs. And substantial attention has been placed on encouraging load management to manage the costs. And we work quite closely with a number of builders to achieve this, to reach this target. And then commercial, we have 2 segments: office, where 50% of spaces have some level of EV readiness, and then other commercial, where we have 11% of spaces with some level of EV readiness. So there are common concerns that come up with regards to the REACH codes, and I'll go through those here with you briefly. First, there's concern about grid readiness and resilience. So we, of course, have been dealing with the public safety power shutoffs, concerns around fire, and other resilience-related issues. And the first thing to understand is that for new construction, most gas appliances require electricity today. So just going left to right here, gas furnaces have electric fans, but of course, if you have a fireplace, the fireplace could still work if there's a power outage. Water heating, same thing. There's electronic ignition and frequently pumps. Cooking stoves, gas stoves can be lit manually. That's true. So that is some additional flexibility. But clothes drying, gas clothes dryers also require electricity to turn the tumblers, which is all to say that if there is a power outage, gas appliances provide only very limited additional resilience. And that's in the case of a power outage. In the case of an earthquake, electricity is substantially more resilient in general, because gas also will be powered off if there are breaks in the line. They typically take much longer to repair than electrical infrastructure. We sometimes get questions around grid ability to handle the added load. We've done analysis in this area. Building electrification will add a very nominal amount of increased load through 2025, and it's pretty nominal looking beyond that as well. Electric vehicles are somewhat more, but it's under 2%. So very, very small incremental increases in load for these applications. In addition, PG&E is very supportive, in fact, of moving to all electric construction because they see the opportunity for reduced costs in terms of the distribution network. And overall, state agencies are seeing this as a much lower cost pathway for decarbonization. In some ways, this is analogous to the move a number of years ago to adding air conditioning and jacuzzis and the like, which are much higher loads, by the way. And of course, work was done to add readiness to that. But again, here with building electrification, these are much smaller loads overall. Some other issues, I'm going to move through these quickly in the interest of time. Distribution grid upgrades for larger buildings, there can be some expenses there. Typically that's offset by the construction savings. We talked about resilience already. Sometimes we hear concerns about uniformity in the code. We've got actually relatively good uniformity between cities now, and at least in the general model. And then additional training needs for contractors and builders, which we are providing. There are some segments that need more, particularly in multifamily, and we've been working to address that. You know, will heat pumps work? Heat pumps are highly efficient and extremely effective in a variety of weather conditions, including those far colder than ours, so that's a non-issue. PCE electrical service is 100% greenhouse gas free today, so it's extremely clean. And equipment availability is sometimes cited. There are some very narrow segments where there might be some issues on equipment availability, hospitals and laboratories and the like, but for the most part, we're not seeing that as a general issue. This is a little bit of a busy diagram, but what you can see here is an analysis looking nationally about how electric, if you will, are homes across the country by year built. And if you look at the last line, what you'll see is 2010 to 2017, most homes now, majority of homes, well over 50%, near 60%, already use all electric space heating. Majority already use all electric water. So these are well-established techniques across the country. California is a bit of an anomaly in that it's still heavily dependent on natural gas. And then I should note that the costs of natural gas are historically have climbed faster than electricity. And it is the expectation because of decreasing use of natural gas that the costs on a utility bill will actually climb substantially higher looking ahead for residents and businesses than electric. And the utilities, in fact, share that view looking at the long term. This slide is an addition to the slide deck based on a follow-up question that I received. But here what you can see, the vertical axis identifies specific exceptions that different cities have put in, and the horizontal axis is how many cities have adopted those particular exceptions. And I'll focus here on the residential, which may be most relevant to Atherton. And what you'll see is a number of cities have put in place exceptions around ADUs, cooking and fireplaces, affordable housing, and some limited exceptions around certain other applications. The point being here is that there isn't an absolute one-size-fits-all, and the local jurisdiction, we will work with the local jurisdiction to adapt the model based on the particular needs that that city sees. In the case of Atherton, you have much larger homes in general, and there may be particular concerns there. And we would engage, if Atherton were to move forward, we would engage our consulting team to work with your staff to devise an approach that fits for Atherton. And then to close, a little bit more about the technical assistance we're providing. Number one is a $10,000 grant to assist with staff time that may be required for this process. As I mentioned, model codes that are ready for adoption and customization and adoption, consultant time on a variety of technical questions, as well as a range of adoption and implementation tools. And these are all available on the project websites. And this is the a glimpse of some of the tools that we have, including model staff reports, flyers for resident communications, frequently asked questions, as well as implementation tools like permitting checklists and so forth. And then finally, as I mentioned, we also have technical assistance for builders and developers, architects, and the like to work on their specific needs at a building level in specific technical terms to assist them to address questions that they may have trouble resolving. And we have a portfolio of experts on contract to offer this support at no cost. And here finally is a list for San Mateo County of the cities that have adopted REACH codes. As you can see, we have 11 agencies that have completed their adoption process. Portola Valley is very close at this point to moving forward with their codes. All of the building codes are all electric with some exceptions, with the exception of Colma. And then electric vehicles, there's a little bit more variation there, but most cities have adopted, or many of the cities have adopted some flavor of the PCE model code. And that concludes the presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Raphael. That was a lot of information presented. Appreciate that very much. I just want to remind Council that this is on the agenda for an up or down to continue with more research and to move forward or to not move forward with the contribution of $10,000 to help with consultants to do the fund analysis into the question and possible preparation of the draft REACH codes for us to consider at a future council meeting. So I'd like to open it up to council members for clarifying questions only at this time, and then also then to the public. So Councilmember Widmer has his hand up. Would you like to ask a clarifying question? We're not going to discuss this.
Yes, I got it. I got it. I listened to what you had to say. Okay.
I'm glad you did.
Okay. Okay. I think it would make sense. And can we perhaps have this presentation given to the Builders Roundtable first and ask them for their opinions on this? Because I think that they might have some ideas on this as well.
Okay, that was not a clarifying question.
Well,
that
it was a question to you,
and
though.
a suggestion. So you didn't listen to me.
I did listen to you.
No, I know, but you don't obey. Any other council member have a clarifying question for Raphael on this?
As to whether we should keep moving forward and bring something back to the council at a future date.
Okay, I'll bring it back to council for their comments on that proposal only. We've heard from Councilmember Widmer. Do I hear any other council members? Vice Mayor, would you like to weigh in on this?
Not right now.
Okay, all right, sorry. Sorry to ping you on that. Councilmember DeGoya?
Sure. Am I muted?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Well, I think it was a very thorough presentation. It's hard to know exactly how it applies to Atherton, but clearly the residential portions of it could have some implication. For me, the most important issues are we're looking only at new construction. We're not looking at modifying existing housing. And if you don't have gas, it's an incredibly significant savings because you don't put in the pipes and you don't put in the meter. And we had that experience with our town center where we didn't connect gas. And that saved us a good deal of money because we didn't. Since we're not in operation, it remains to be seen exactly what the operational benefit is. But I think we need to go on what the estimates are and what the experience of others are. And to me, the health benefits of not having that natural gas in the house, particularly where our pilots are going on our stoves, is pretty significant. I don't think that's really been.
Okay, so
I'm
you know,
giving you an opinion here, and
I know.
because of that, I think that it's something we should look into. So I support looking into it. I support accepting the $10,000, accepting a good deal of their consulting support, which we use on a regular basis and we should use in this, and I think we should go forward with it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hawkins Manwellian.
I think this is really important for us to do. I think the new houses going in now are putting in hardware that's going to be in place going into the future. And it's our duty to try to fix some of the problems we have. And if I look at the community of Atherton, I think there's only one thing that I think the ladies will have a hard time giving up: their Wolf's and Viking stoves. And I've not been able to find any induction stoves that are being promoted very much in the US. So that's something that has to be fixed. But clearly many of the other things on the list are very important. And I do think that our community would go with it, especially I think we have a high number of electric cars already. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. So I'm going to toss it back in your lap, Vice Mayor, if you want to make a comment now.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I have a different view, which is twofold. One is sort of a process point. I think we already went through this and had a discussion on it, and I don't think a lot has changed. Two is it makes me uncomfortable for us to be mandating things for people to do. You know, there's as the presenter was talking about, there are a lot of advantages to electricity, but people are choosing not to put it in. People are choosing gas.
Okay.
So anyway, I would not like to see us step in and say that we're smarter and better than anybody else is. So
Understand. That's not what we're trying to decide right now. All we're trying to decide is if we're going to get more information about, you know, what it is that we could do. And
I'm getting the information we got last year and up to this point, and so I don't think we need to pursue this further.
I see. Okay. Well, I just basically what we have to decide in front of us now is whether or not to take the next step at no decision point at all, saying, yes, we're going to do this, or no, we're not, but just to get some more information, like a free ride, a free information study book, which I think would be important to see if there is anything in it at all that we might want to take to our residents and say, hey, how about this? But that's all. So I'm going to make a motion that we take the next step, take the $10,000 consultant donation, have it go through our staff, through the building department, through the city manager's office, to then work with PCE and get back to us. So that's the motion that I'm going to make.
Okay,
right
but before we have the motion, I did raise my hand.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm so sorry. You had your chance, I thought.
No, I asked the question. So the next comment that I have, so the comment on this is the following. When I've spoken with the city manager, he says, well, if we take the $10,000, we will come back to the council with a model ordinance. I don't think we're there yet. We
Well,
don't
he
know.
hasn't told me that, Mr. Widmer, so I don't think that we need to talk about that.
Well, he's on the call. Why don't
But I
we
don't
ask
think
him?
that has anything to do with, because he
Well, if
doesn't
we're
come
gonna,
back with a, no.
Madam Mayor, if you
Mr.
please,
Widmer,
if you would listen to me,
if
please.
you would listen to me, please, the council will not accept a model ordinance without first reviewing the consultant's report. Period.
If now I may say what I'd like to say.
Of course, you have your
Okay.
hand raised.
Thank you. So I do believe that, I think that there are some things here that are relevant, some things perhaps not. I would like to have the city come back to talk to the council about what the options are. PCE will tell us what their model ordinances are, things like that. And then we would have a discussion on picking and choosing what we think is appropriate for putting it in. And then it would come back as an ordinance, perhaps with some comments from the Builders Forum. I think that that's
I
a
think
better
you put the
approach.
horse before the cart. You're putting the horse before the cart.
I don't think so.
The horse
Why don't
belongs.
we ask George what he's planning on
There's a
doing?
motion on the table to move forward with the consultant's report and bring that information back to council. Do I have a second?
Yes, I would second it, but can you, so the motion is to accept the $10,000 from PCE and have staff look into what the what the model code would, or what the ordinance would be. Is that correct?
No, that's not my
Okay,
understanding.
could you restate the motion?
Why
So
don't we let Rafael Reyes explain to us what the next step would be?
Okay.
Rafael? You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you. So typically what cities have done is engaged in dialogue with the consultants, raise particular questions that they might have, maybe engage stakeholders, as one of the council members earlier suggested, your builders roundtable. We can absolutely do that. And then typically based on that process, then have a study session. And that study session would then be an opportunity for staff to get further guidance, present the learnings, and get further guidance before a specific ordinance were brought for reading. So we absolutely encourage having that kind of dialogue before a specific ordinance is brought to the council.
And that dialogue would be with staff and council?
Yes, of course. So typically there's some consultant staff discussion, again, maybe some additional stakeholder input, maybe a workshop, and then a study session, which would be led by staff typically, but with consultants or consultants present so that we can answer questions that may arise. And then the council would typically provide direction to staff about whether or not an ordinance is desired, and if so, what shape the council would like.
And at that point, if council said, this just doesn't work for us, there's nothing in it that we want to, our residents would just, push back because it's not something that they would voluntarily do anyway, or whatever. It's guidance, and you'd go, well, okay, we tried.
Absolutely, it's entirely at your direction.
Okay.
And that's part of the $10,000 process, right, Rafael?
That's right.
Okay, great. So the next step would include evaluating the issue and taking it to the Builders Roundtable. I think that would be a very positive thing to do. And I think giving Raphael's presentation to the Builders Roundtable would be great. I don't feel like it needs to be a precondition to our supporting going forward to the next step, but I think it should be part of the next step. So I think Bill's suggestion was right. I just don't think it should be a condition before
Right.
we go into the next step.
Agree. Because we're here at this moment to make that decision, to go take the next step, to get more information before we make any decisions at all.
Right. Okay.
So,
So
City Attorney, does my motion and the second still stand? Can I call for the vote?
Yes, you may.
May I call for the vote? Anthony?
You may. Councilmember Hawkins,
A,
DeGolio,
yes.
Widmer,
I'm willing to go along with it.
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Nay.
and Mayor Lewis.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Raphael. And I think that you'll just coordinate with City Manager Rodericks for the next steps and the Builders Roundtable.
Be in touch.
Thank you. Okay. This next item is public comments. Do we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment at this time?
Again, just for the folks that are on the call, if you'd like to make a comment, I think everybody here is by Zoom link. You can click on the participants button at the bottom toolbar, click the raise your hand feature, and we will acknowledge you. You're also welcome to use the chat to send a message to me, but Mayor, I don't see anybody.
Okay, we'll go on to the City Manager's report, written report. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Unfortunately, I think this was my error. Staff completed their versions of their departmental reports. I completed my version, but I don't think I ever sent it to the city clerk for inclusion in the agenda.
I thought it was one of your best reports, George.
Yeah,
Thanks. So it'll probably.
I would just say it was the briefest.
The briefest. So it'll
you were
double
going
up
to do
next
a
month.
25-page PowerPoint presentation on it.
Maybe it'll help the meeting go faster.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm sure it
So
will.
we'll go on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar, just for everyone's edification, is the routine in nature and generally considered in one motion and adopted by a single vote of the City Council. And that would be for items number 6 through 8, which is the approval of bills and claims for February, and the approval of the minutes, which everyone got after words, and the award of contract for the pavilion restroom remodel. Do I have any member of the council wish to pull an item for a comment or question? Any member of the public? Call for a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 6 through 8.
I'm happy to move it.
So moved.
Thank you. We have Vice Mayor Lemprus and then a second by Councilmember Widmer. May I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Hawkins,
yes.
DeGolio,
Yes.
Widmer,
Yep.
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
Yes. We'll go on to our regular agenda items, item number 9, which is usually in our consent agenda, but in respect for comments made by our esteemed Vice Mayor, I think that I should let you handle this and we'll have this discussion.
If I could, and it may be very short, but I just was, the reason I asked for this is that we have an emergency resolution that changes, or emergency resolution that changes the way we're doing our governance. And therefore, it seemed to me it's probably a less transparent, less democratic way to go about doing business, or in some way inferior to the way we normally do it. And now we've been doing that. It was originally an emergency that we thought wasn't going to last that long. And now it's been, whatever, 13, 14 months.
13 months, yes.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to touch base, and I don't want to waste everybody's time, but I thought it was important because we haven't really talked about it much in the last 13 months, just to see what the consequences of this are and to see if there's anything we should be considering in changing it. So I appreciate everybody's time on that.
Sure. Does any other member of the council have a comment on this? I do.
Sure.
Well, excuse me. Sorry, Bill, you know.
Yeah, sure, no problem. You want
Yeah.
me to go first? Okay.
Yeah, go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my comment is, of course, we all get letters from residents. And I know what we're doing. We're following, the state has some guidelines, the county has some guidelines. And, we're staying within those county guidelines. We're not really making them stricter as we could. but the people don't seem to understand that. And so when I write to people, I say, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, but they don't seem to really understand that, you know, we have to follow theirs. We can only make things more restrictive. And so I think that that's caused some people some questions, and they see things opening, and, you know, everybody's moving in a specific direction. Marin's doing well, except for their water. And, you know, people are saying, why can't we have more tennis? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? We're letting the kids play baseball. And so there is a resident that writes regularly with regards to the tennis courts and having mixed doubles and things like that. So I think it's good that we spread the information.
So
Clear.
I just want to respond to your comment and to residents out there. I mean, they need to go on, submit their email to the city so that they can receive the weekly news information from the city manager, which includes all of the information about this emergency situation that we're all in. Am I to understand that you are thinking that you want to open up and have in-person meeting with us, and, you know, meetings? Because frankly, I'm still very nervous to have in-person meeting. We had an outside in-person meeting with residents on Monday night, and I felt uncomfortable because some people wanted to, you know, hug or touch or whatever, and in fact did, and that made me feel very uncomfortable. So because it's people's nature, and I don't know how many people are really vaccinated. We're not quite there yet. But anyway, any other council member have a comment on this?
Were you addressing that to me?
No, I wasn't with you.
Oh, okay. Good. I didn't know whether or not you were addressing that directly to me, because I didn't
No,
think it was
but
on.
were we together on Monday?
No, we weren't.
No.
I didn't come. I got a letter that says don't come.
I know. Anyway, so, okay, seeing no other council member, any member of the public have a comment about this? Okay, so Vice Mayor, may I call for a motion to approve?
I think so. Actually, I have a question for George. George, I just want to understand, what are we doing that's changing our policies?
Sure. So in anticipation of this being off the consent agenda, I thought I might go through and provide an overview of what the purpose of the emergency declaration was, and an overview of the emergency powers that are actually enacted via our ordinance as a result. So the town's emergency services ordinance defines an emergency as an actual or threatened existence of conditions of disaster of extreme peril to the safety of persons or property within the town caused by such conditions as pollution, fire, storm, epidemic, which is the pandemic, riot or earthquake, or other conditions, including conditions resulting from war or imminent threat of war. So it's very broad, but it has to have an immediate threat to persons or property, and the pandemic is clearly listed in there, and it does. A pandemic typically lasts for an extended period of time. So it's unlike a fire or an earthquake, which is a short action and then there's a recovery period and people just move forward. This lasts for a year plus, and it indeed has. So in addition to prescribing the emergency powers, the declaration of emergency also sets up a chain of fiscal coverage that allows the town to recoup costs associated with response to the emergency from FEMA and Department of Homeland Security. Absent the declaration and the continuing declaration, the town's costs associated with response either would not be eligible for federal or state reimbursement, or would be far harder to get. So when under the disaster declaration, the Director of Emergency Services, who's the city manager, has certain practical powers that are not typically present under normal operations. These include the power to make and issue rules and regulations on matters that are reasonably related to the protection of life and property. We saw that with the powers enacted for construction, for activities in the park, general things like that. I can obtain vital supplies and equipment and other property that's necessary for the protection of life and property. I can do that by commandeering such equipment. So if this were an earthquake, for example, I could go out to a construction site and pick up a couple of skip loaders and use them to address the emergency needs of the town that are imminent. And then any action taken by me to include conscripting of materials and personnel need to be ratified by the city council on a regular basis. And that's why we bring this to the council monthly. And in that staff report, we note any changes in town activities or operations that are going to be ratified by the town as we move forward. And that's pretty much it.
Any comment from any member of the council on this?
I'm happy to move it if you'd like it moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Widmer. So we have a motion and second. Anthony, will you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Hawkins,
Yes.
DeGolia,
Yes.
Widmer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
And
Aye.
just for the record, there was no public comment on that.
Oh,
We
sorry.
checked the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, item number 10. This is consideration of an appointment to the Environmental Programs Committee and to the Transportation Committee. And I'd like to turn this over to City Manager, please. You need to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you move forward for consideration of appointment of the applicants, I was asked to reiterate some of the roles and rules provided in the council's resolution governing committees. All committees are subject to the City Council Rules of Procedure, Municipal Code, Political Reform Act, and the Brown Act. Committee members serve at the pleasure of the council. Collectively, committees are encouraged to advocate positions to the council on matters under their purview for their respective committee. Otherwise, no committee member or any of its members represent themselves as speaking on behalf of the town. Individual members are not authorized to make public statements or comments on matters within the purview outside of their normal committee process. And committees do not have the authorization to expend town resources. They're advisory to the city council only. Each committee has a charter as their official powers and duties, and work of the committee is typically bound by this charter. The committee as a whole makes recommendations to the city council on areas within their charter, and the council can accept, modify, or reject any recommendation from a committee. Tonight, there are 2 appointments for consideration to fill unexpired terms of vacant seats on the Environmental Programs Committee and the Transportation Committee, 1 applicant for each. Should the council desire, before voting on these appointments, it might be appropriate for the considered appointees to provide the council with any additional information or an opportunity for Q&A if either of them were present this evening. And I do believe Christine David is on the line tonight. That concludes the staff report.
Okay. Before we ask, let's see. Well, why don't we go ahead? Christine, do you want to say something about this? You need to unmute. There you go.
I did. There you go. Hi, everybody. Diana, it's nice to see you on the council. Anyway, yeah, I'm very interested in helping on any committee, and I think the Transportation Committee is another very important part of how the town functions. And with the COVID changes around town, I've never seen more people walking, running, bicycling, and more needs to drive more slowly or have directional walking, or, you know, because everybody's home. So I think it's a very important and current issue, and I'd love to take part in helping to improve it for our residents. And I also would like to work with Mike and Chief, if he's there. Yeah, there he is.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Sure. Thank you. Let's see. Is Patty on the line?
I don't see her on the line. So
Okay. So I have a question. Aren't we going out? Is it in June for everything else in June? And so
correct.
why are we doing this now?
These are midterm appointments because we've had changes in committees for vacancies that occurred in the middle of terms. So when that occurs, if we receive applicants for those vacancies, we immediately bring them to the city council. We are also in the midst of a normal recruitment process for terms that normally expire June of 2021. And there are vacancies that do expire on the Environmental Programs Committee and the Transportation Committee that may bring additional applicants for the council's consideration for those vacancies.
I somehow I don't recall us doing kind of mid-year appointees. It's always done in June. So I was just kind of asking that question. Any other member of the council have a question to ask about this? I see Mr. Widmer has his hand up. You need to unmute.
No, I don't have a question. I had a comment. I thought we were going there.
Oh, okay, well, we're getting there pretty soon. Anybody have a question about this? Okay, any member of the public want to ask a question about this? Let's go to comments. Councilmember Widmer?
Sure. I'm like you, if we had a vacancy and there was still half the year left, I can see, and there were some critical things happening, I could see appointing somebody. But when you're making a decision with just one person, it doesn't seem like we're making a decision, we're just being told. And so I appreciate these people applying. But I'd like to have, I'd like to let everybody apply and not have an incumbent here. And so, I think we should delay these until the mid-year when we're going to do that. That's my 2 cents.
Any other member of the council have a comment on this? Councilmember DeGolia has his hand up. I'm sorry.
No
I can't
problem.
see that little hand sometimes.
Well, I mean, we can just speak out, but we don't want to.
You're so nice.
Respectful to you.
You're so
Madam
nice.
Mayor.
Thank you. You're so nice.
So I think that the point that this is coming up toward the end of the year and that, we've actually initiated the recruitment for June is a fair point. I don't feel strongly about this issue personally, but I mean, just to respond to Bill's comment, I do think this was publicly solicited. Anybody could have responded. So we absolutely could have had more than one respondent for these openings. The other point in response to the mayor's comment, I do think that we've filled vacancies interim to the June normal, expiration period. I am certain that we've done that in the past several times in the last few years. But I do think that we've done it with more like 6 months or more rather than 2 months.
Or
The
1 month.
fact is, we did it, and we got and it was a public solicitation, and we got responses. Yes, we only got one response for each vacancy, and in fact, I think those committees are going to have additional vacancies in June. So I guess my opinion is we should go ahead and accept. I'm glad that people are interested in serving, accept their offer and add them to the committees. I'm a little bit concerned with this COVID year that we're going to have less interest than we've had. Maybe there's been less outreach for it. I'm not sure, but I'm a little bit worried because we've got quite a number of openings for the committees. So I mean, I don't feel really strongly about it, but I would be inclined to go forward and appoint the 2 respondents.
Okay. Any other council member want to make a comment? Vice Mayor? Yes.
Yeah, I think I agree with Rick on this. It may or may not have been the right thing to put those solicitations out, but we did it as a town, and we had residents who were interested enough to respond. And I think maybe we would get more people applying to these committees if we made it a better experience for them. And I think this would be an example where people are, applying and going through an effort, and if we're not willing to accept their efforts, it's going to be a negative experience.
Sure, absolutely. You're right. Yeah, I know. I've experienced that, and I've seen residents who have made emergency trips back from being out of town in order to speak to council when there were multiple, people applying that didn't get it, and they were very, very well qualified, and seen, other situations where people didn't get it because of, more of a popularity thing. So, all right.
Madam Mayor, with your permission, if you are interested, I could share with you some details about how we have been recruiting and soliciting applicants, if you're open to that.
Well, I did see the little flyer that came through, but that was after this was all done, actually.
Yeah, so that flyer is.
I
was
didn't see
something-
one that came through before that.
That's right. So that's unique. I don't think that, we haven't done that in my 2 years here before that. So this year, considering COVID and because there's less touch points, and I solicited some feedback from several council members about the fact that, it used to be something that you could recruit for in person, and it was word of mouth, and you would
Right.
talk to your neighbors and your residents. So because that's not an option right now, we put together this simple mailer for the annual recruitment that we thought would be good to get into everyone's home. Obviously, we use all of our usual platforms. We post on Nextdoor, we post on Facebook, we post on Twitter, we use the website, we reach out to the Almanac, and often they'll write small articles about it and share it through their platforms as well. We send it to the neighborhood homeowners associations. And so we've done that. And with the posting that this was to fill, there were several vacancies, bike and ped, transportation, EPC, and the park and rec for the appointment, the 2-year appointment, but we only got these applicants, although we were recruiting for those openings, and we sent it out to all of those avenues.
Right. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. All right. Well, Diana, if you have something to say, it's your turn. You need to unmute. You.
I agree with everything that's been said so far, and I think that we did publicize it. We got the people, and we have qualified people. I think we should accept them, in my opinion. There will be more openings and more people in just a few months. So this isn't the only recruitment we're going to have, correct?
No, we're actively recruiting, and, make a good point that Anthony does, that usually it's, from people reaching out to friends and neighbors. And so I think that's really kind of what happened too. So, all right, well, I will then, we are going to take both of them in one motion. Can we do that, City Attorney? Yes.
If there is a motion that would support both of them, you can do that.
Okay, I'll call for a motion to.
Moved. Or I'll second Rick's motion. How's that?
Okay, so I'm just to be clear, Councilmember DeGoya made a motion to approve the committee appointments for the Environmental Programs Committee for a term expiring June 30th, 2023 for Patty Spetzel-Farrow, and then to the Transportation Committee for a term expiring 6/30/2023 for Christine David. And Vice Mayor Lumpers seconded that motion. Anthony, can we have a roll call, please?
You can. Councilmember Hawkins.
Yes.
DeGolia.
Yes.
Widmer.
No, I think we should wait.
Vice Mayor Lempres.
Aye.
And Mayor Lewis.
Well, I think we should wait also, but I'm not going to be a spoil sport. I will go ahead and approve that also. Thank you. So our motion passes, and we have new committee members. So going on to item number 11 in our agenda packet, it's to review the recommendations regarding the median street trees on Tuscaloosa and Mount Vernon, and provide feedback. This is going to break my heart. So Sally, hi, can I turn it over to you now?
I'll provide the introduction, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
And
City
then
Manager.
we'll turn it to Sally for any questions that you might have.
Okay.
As indicated in the staff report, over the past few months, staff and consultant arborists evaluated 2 of the town's center lane street trees, one on Tuscaloosa and one on Mount Vernon, as you mentioned. The recommendation regarding the Tuscaloosa tree is basically to trim it, watch it, and reevaluate it in about a year. It's highly likely, based on the report, that after that period of time, the reevaluation recommendation may still be to remove that tree. The town is assuming a certain amount of increased risk in trying to maintain that tree, and the arborist's report effectively puts the town on notice with respect to that risk. The recommendation on the Mount Vernon tree is immediate removal. Staff doesn't recommend replacing the trees in the center of the roadway. The roadway and neighborhood was developed around the trees, and the town did not properly create a raised median or widen the roadway to accommodate those trees. However, if it is the council's desire to consider replacement of the tree, staff would recommend replacing the tree or trees with a street appropriate trees that we consider for root and debris impact, and that an appropriately sized raised median area be built that would accommodate the tree. This may require the widening of the lanes on either side of the tree, and that would require encroachments into the right-of-way frontages of those adjacent properties. Staff has the authority to make decisions related to these types of trees and has come forth with a recommendation to do so. However, because of the significance of these trees and their significance to the neighborhoods, staff is bringing these two issues to the city council for concurrence before acting. Staff recommends that the council concur with staff's recommendation for trimming the Tuscaloosa tree and removal of the Mount Vernon tree. And Sally, as you mentioned, is on the line, our town arborist, to answer any more detailed questions about the sonic topography or tomography or anything else that was done to those trees to evaluate their condition, which was pretty cool.
Yes, thank you for that overview. So I was there. Anyway, let's ask any questions that we may have first. Vice Mayor Lempress, and then Councilmember Hawkins Manwillian.
My question is that how many of these, I don't even know what the term is, mid-street trees do we have in town?
Less and less.
Probably less than 10, but these two are the most significant trees
They are significant.
for the medians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sally, can you just give a little more color about the Mount Vernon tree and how it had been cultivated, I guess, is what this one arborist said, for maximum acorn production?
You know, I'm not sure about that.
You weren't at that meeting.
Yeah, I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, I did see that he was very interested in not having it removed because of the acorn value and because of the Native American aspect.
Right.
Because it is one of the older trees.
Right.
But yeah.
Anyway, okay, Councilmember Hawkins Manwillian.
I was curious if we've had members from the public engaged and has the community discussed this?
Yeah, so when we first thought to remove the tree, we sent out an email to all the interested parties. We sent out a letter actually to all the homeowners around where the tree is located. And we did get some interest back from a few of the property owners, as well as an arborist and somebody that's interested in Native American tree related things was hired as well by the residents. So it's probably about a group of 5 to 6 people that were interested in not having the tree removed.
Not having it, you said.
Yeah, I did reach out to them prior to this meeting to tell them this would be an agendized item, but I don't see anybody here at the meeting tonight.
Any other council member have a question? If not, any member of the public have a question to Sally or city manager about this? I'm going to bring it back, and I'll just make a comment that, again, early in the beginning of this year, Sally had inspected the tree and indicated that it needed to be removed, and the residents were notified. And so there was a large meeting, I should say large, maybe 5 residents, and they came out and they said, oh my gosh, you know, this and this and this. So the town went to a further step to investigate to examine, to x-ray, to really, really try to determine the health of the tree. And I have not heard back from the residents whether or not they feel that it's sufficient, but they're not here today, and I did not reach out to them about it. But it was such a significant tree, obviously, in the whole community there on Mount Vernon. But and at one point they thought that they could just take the weight off of that one side, right, Sally, with the removing that one limb.
Yeah, but for this tree, they felt like if you take off too much of the weight, it is going to stress out the tree even further.
I see. That was the final.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's really tragic. I mean, it's such a beautiful tree, and it's defined that street and those neighbors. But the branches completely, reach over the trees and into the homes, over the street.
This tree just has a lot of targets around it, which makes our liability higher. The road is literally a foot away from the trunk, so and it's a narrower road.
Yeah.
So the difference between the Tuscaloosa tree is the road is larger and there is more space around it. So technically the targets, there are still targets, but the targets for the Mount Vernon tree are a lot closer.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'm just, I guess a question for Sally, which is simply, if we were to remove that tree on Mount Vernon, is there a practical way to replace it with something that will grow, and be appropriate and attractive in that spot?
So the town is not interested in replacing it, but it is an option that we could replace
The
it.
town is now having a meeting about that, Sally. Thank you very much.
But yes, we can replace it with something. I already came up with a list of trees that could possibly be recommended for there. I was going to see if the residents had any comments on what type of species, but yes, we could replace a tree there.
Okay.
But I would strongly encourage we do the median thing, or it's just going to be a hazard again in the future.
Yeah, are we in comments, Madam Mayor? Because
I think so, yes.
yeah, so my thought, I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts, but my thought is I love those trees. Like, not just Mount Vernon is really a particular, there's something really charming about having to slow down and go around these trees. And you lose something when they're gone. It'll change Mount Vernon. So I would like to see us at least explore all the trees that are similarly situated in town and see if there's things we can do to protect them and help them grow in a safe way. So that's my initial impression. And obviously, if it's unsafe, you take it out. I'm sorry, you can't risk that.
I mean, the liability seems to be pretty. Fortunately, we have not had a huge winter since, I mean, there was, the winter early on, but we haven't had the rains and the winds. Anyway, Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian, I think you want to speak.
I'm curious. I've seen a lot of the old trees that they put an actual crutch, like a support beam that then grows right into the tree. Because I share the opinion that these trees are beautiful and I hate to see taking them down. I also see the liability in all of that. But I would like to know that we've done every possible avenue, including support structures that might be built near it to hold it. I don't know. I haven't seen the trees to see if that's feasible, but I have seen that around in Woodside, those kind of, what I'm talking about. It's like a stick, but then it grows right into the tree over time and it gives it more support. In terms of planting new trees, I don't think planting a new little tree does anything for me, unless it was somehow an symbolic offspring of the tree that was there and it's the next generation. But just planting a little dinky tree and building a curb around it does not preserve what the important thing is about that tree, in my opinion.
Councilmember DeGolia, you've been very patient.
No problem. I like to be patient.
I know.
I share Mike's love for these trees. And I love driving around these trees. I've got one on Santiago that is on a regular route that I take through the town. So I pass that tree every time, and I salute that tree. I have to slow down. It's right in the middle of the road. It's exactly like the tree on Mount Vernon and Tuscaloosa. So my thoughts are, yes, they're wonderful. It's part of Atherton. It's something I'd love to preserve. I represent a town, and that town has fiscal responsibility, and I want to avoid the incurrence of fiscal liability that could, adversely impact us. And if these trees are really at risk of damaging people and property, I think they should be taken down. I don't think they should just be supported until they damage somebody. I'm worried about that, and I feel responsible for that. And I think that the city staff looks at that perspective and feels responsible to protect property and residents and anybody else that may be passing if those trees were to fall. And if we've been advised that they're at a risk level that's a serious risk level, and when I read the staff report, frankly, it looks to me like both trees are at a serious risk level. And if we don't take, for example, I know we're talking about the Mount Vernon tree, but if we don't take the Tuscaloosa tree down now, next year we're going to have to evaluate it, and the projection is it'll be in much worse shape. So we'll have spent the money to take 25% of the tree down now, and then we'll have to remove the tree in a year or 2 years. That doesn't seem right to me. I think these trees are wonderful parts of our town, but if they're dangerous, I just guess that I would vote to remove them. I don't like to do that, but if I'm told that by experts that has to be done, then that makes sense. And I don't have the concern that, if you put in a 36-inch tree, a box tree, or a 24-inch box tree, which is a small tree compared to these big valley oaks. The valley oaks are the most wonderful trees we have in the town. They're spectacular trees. I totally love them. But you have to be patient with them, and I'm okay to put in a 24-inch box tree. I don't know that it should go in the middle of the road, but I'd like to see more valley oaks planted in the town.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember DeGolia. Councilmember Widmer, you have your hand raised. Yes.
Sure. So first off, I thought staff and West Coast Arborists did a tremendous job on their study. And if you look at the study and the tomography, both of these trees have significant amount of decay inside the core. Both of the reports say that one is imminent and the other says, it's pretty darn close to imminent. And so I'm with Rick. I think that really right now we should probably consider taking both of them down. A minimum, we have to take down the Mount Vernon tree, okay? And because, we cannot take that liability. Trees fall. They had a tree just fall a couple of years ago at Menlo College and really seriously hurt somebody, and they're in a giant lawsuit, okay? We don't want to be in there, right? We're responsible for that tree, for both of those trees. And I think that I agree with everybody that says, when you're driving down a road, if there's a tree in the middle of it, you have to slow down. But also they're a little bit of a hazard as well. Over at Nativity, they took a big tree down that was in the middle of driving through the parking lot. Then they put this little tree there. And, the road is so small, you can't hardly get through it. So, I'm not in favor of trees in the middle of the road. So I wouldn't replant them. And I would recommend that we take both of them down. But if no one else wants to do that, well, okay, then you have to take the one down right now. I don't want to get in the middle of having to then take property from people. If we want to plant another tree, plant it on the side, on the public right of way, but not in the middle of the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I cannot agree with what everyone's saying more. And again, I want to thank staff for going the extra mile, especially for the Mount Vernon tree. It is the way the Native American Indians pruned it. That's what the structure of the branching is. It's just so unusual because of the way it has lived. I'm of the opinion that if we take it down, that I wouldn't put a 24-inch box tree. I wouldn't put a 36-inch box tree. I know you can get giant, 64-inch box trees and build the appropriate curbing around it, or maybe even raise it up so it appears taller immediately, in its own environment, especially for Mount Vernon and also the Tuscaloosa. But as it is indicated in the staff report, also, or city manager and I spoke, that you would really need to widen the road going around it, which would mean taking some right away from the either adjacent property. But I'm sure that they would be very, very happy to give that up in order to have a giant valley oak planted, as large as we could possibly get. And I know that that's expensive, and I'm sure that we could get some private funding to do that. So that's kind of I've seen trees that have had concrete poured into their cavity, and they are surviving and structurally sound. Sally, is that anything that was considered?
No, we haven't considered that.
Have you ever seen that done?
I've seen like a sill type of soil, but I haven't seen that before.
Any other member of the council? Vice Mayor? Yes.
It struck me that there's been an awful lot of construction on Tuscaloosa in the last few years. Sally, is there any chance that, those large trucks or anything else have had an impact on that tree?
Well, the road has been compacted for a long time, so I don't think it would have to do with the construction. I really do think it's just based on the age of the tree.
Okay.
I mean, trucks would have hit the branches, but because of the asphalt, it wouldn't have affected the tree.
These are very old trees.
Yeah.
How old do you think they are? I feel like we're going to a funeral here. What's our next step, city manager? We have to call for a motion to take action here.
Yeah, to concur with staff's recommendation on removal of the Mount Vernon tree. And if the council wishes to remove the Tuscaloosa tree, we could do that as well. With respect to the replanting, we could bring back a proposal of some kind if you're interested in doing that. There are other options. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we do not like putting trees in the center of the road. That's just waiting to be a hazard at some point in the future. But we could look at planting trees on the side of the road and pass the maintenance responsibility onto the adjacent property owner through some encroachment agreement.
Give the responsibility to the adjacent property owner?
To maintain trees on the sides of the road.
On either side?
Or one side or both, depending on whether the property owner would like it or not.
Well, I can't envision that on on Mount Vernon, possibly on Tuscaloosa, but not Mount Vernon.
If we are taking their right of way, maybe it's a tree they would want rather than a car driving closer to their fences and gates.
Yeah,
The town has done that before.
Yes, say again.
I said the town has done that before, years ago. on Glenwood, they planted a ton, and on Middlefield, a ton of elm trees. The town did that.
Yeah, but it's not the same condition. That was much bigger. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I was going to suggest that we maybe look at this in 3 steps. One of which is the Mount Vernon tree. Do we, keep it or cut it down? 2 of which is the Tuscaloosa tree. Do we keep it or cut it down? What do we do with it? And then 3rd is sort of next step. How do we want to proceed with the idea of trees generally? And
I agree.
Okay. All right. So
Can I just add, I think that there's actually, I think that's a good suggestion, but I actually think there's a 4th step, which is in between your 2 and 3, Mike, which is, what to do in terms of replacement of these trees. If we choose to on items 1 and 2, take down both of the trees, which I agree with what Bill said. One is imminently dangerous and the other is almost imminently dangerous. And it's going to be it's just going to cost us more to screw around with it. So since it's going in that direction, it makes sense to me to take them both down. But I do think it would be good for staff to come back with a proposal about what to do. And I'm not adverse to using the right of way to do it. If we put them on the side, it will be the responsibility of the homeowner. So, but we would pay for the trees to put them in, and we could put in good sized trees. I'd love to see some valley oaks. I want to make sure that Sally's comfortable that those trees will go in a place where they could be healthy, because they're next to a road. That may not be they may not be the best trees to put in there. So I'd like to give staff the ability to make a suggestion or series of suggestions. And then I think the 4th thing is what to do with trees in general going forward in the town. And I think that's a really important thing for us to think about.
Okay. I don't know that we've opened it up for public comment on this.
I don't think you have anybody on the line.
Fine. All right. So I'm going to call for a motion to do the first thing, what to do with the Mount Vernon tree, to remove it as soon as possible.
I move that we remove the Mount Vernon tree as soon as possible.
Do I have a second?
Well,
we're doing them all in order.
we're doing them in order.
I'll
second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Widmer and a second by Councilmember DeGoya to remove the Mount Vernon tree as quickly as possible to prevent any potential harm to residents or visitors. Can I call for the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Hawkins,
Reluctantly, yes.
DeGolia,
Yes.
Widmer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
Breaks my heart. I have to say yes, but staff did a really thorough job and I guess we have no choice. So that motion carries. So we'll go on to the Tuscaloosa tree. And the motion would be to take the recommendation of staff and prune it back, see if we can make it healthy and mitigate any potential danger. I mean, any tree you have, you know, it's never free from completely dangerous. So do I have a motion to accept staff's recommendation about the Tuscaloosa tree?
I would move that.
Okay, I have a motion from Vice Mayor Lemprus, second to take the staff's recommendation.
So just to clarify, the recommendation is that we
leave it up,
prune the tree to about 25% and then revisit it next year.
That's what staff's recommending.
I don't support that.
It's against the heritage tree ordinance.
Well then. Well then,
The
okay,
town wrote that, and I don't know why the town wouldn't want to follow it.
okay.
Could you
And-
clarify what you meant by that? What ordinance are you talking about
The
specifically?
heritage tree ordinance.
That says,
It has very specifics of how you handle heritage trees. What you can take off. You can't even take off a full branch.
oh, so it would require us to take less than 25%.
If we follow our own procedures, which I would think that we should.
Can someone be more specific about what the procedures are? You said,
Well,
Sally, can you articulate what that
Yes.
exactly is?
So the ordinance says that you shouldn't take more than 25% of the foliage in 1 year. And this is because it could stress out the tree and you don't want to do large pruning cuts. A lot of times people, it's called topping. They do that because they think they're going to slow down the growth of the tree, but it actually expedites the growth. And so that's not something we want people to do to their trees. But in this case, it's recommended because we're preserving the tree. The other option is to remove it. And because it is considered somewhat dangerous, we're lowering the risk by pruning it that way. So it's a special case which we would prune. And we might not even have to prune 25%. They just want to prune the end weight from the tree. And so it might not equal 25%, but it could.
Okay, well, we have a motion to accept staff's recommendation. Do I have a second? I'll make the second on that, just to see if we can preserve that tree. I'll call for the vote.
Well, before we vote, can we?
We
should
have comments?
Make some comments or ask some questions.
Oh, okay.
Sally, I'd like to clarify your opinion on that tree. If we remove the end weights as you're suggesting, and it's not frankly clear to me whether that suggestion is being done so we don't take as radical a step as removing it. But my question is, if we take off the end weights, do you think that that might enable the tree to be healthy and continue to survive for many years versus 1 or maybe 2 years?
No, so the pruning will just eliminate some of the risk. The tree will continue to decay. By pruning it will not stop the decaying of the tree in the trunk, but it just eliminates some of the risk if the tree is to fail.
Okay, so that will enable us to let the tree survive for some period of time, but if the decay is continuing, is it your judgment that we'll need to remove that tree in a year or two?
So West Coast Arborists recommended that we redo the tomography in 2 to 3 years, but monitor it in the next year to see if it declines further. But they did recommend 2 to 3 years for the tomography. But yes, so in 2 to 3 years, we would have to consider removing it again, especially since the decay is going to continue.
So, I mean, so rather than just the report, what's your opinion? Do you think, is it your opinion that the tree will continue to decay and that it will need to be removed because of that?
I mean, the tree is going to continue to decay. It's just if it's going to be an imminent danger or not. But based on the age of the tree, it would be likely that we would have to remove it in the next few years.
There's no way to stop the decay? Like
Not
put some slab on it?
not with the amount of decay that is occurring.
Or has occurred.
Has occurred, and the only thing we could do is maybe slow it down, but it really, we don't know if it would actually slow down, but it will continue to decay.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Let's call for the vote and see where we are. Anthony? You need to unmute.
Councilmember Hawkins,
I'm not ready to pull the plug yet, so I'm in favor.
DeGolia,
No,
Widmer,
No,
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Aye.
and Lewis.
You know, I hate to do this to you guys. I'm going to say no, because I feel a great sense of responsibility, and unless something really changes between now and the chopping block that we have to kind of bring it back, I think we should just go ahead and remove it.
So just to be clear, I have Hawkins as an aye for the motion, DeGolia as an aye for the motion.
No,
No.
No.
Lemprus.
I'm
It's
the only
2 to
one.
3. It loses 2 to 3.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Even though I seconded the motion, but then we had more discussion.
Madam Mayor, if I could, if it's going to come down, can we make sure that we have proper outreach rather to the neighbors and all of that?
Absolutely, yeah.
If we have tree huggers come and demonstrate in front of our tree, are we prepared for that?
Well, we'll have to get prepared.
So, Madam Mayor, given that this is different than staff's recommendation and that motion failed, I'd appreciate another motion in the opposite direction.
Okay. So like to make a motion so I'll make that motion. I'm sorry, that we should imminently remove the Tuscaloosa tree because of the decay and the potential danger to our residents and their visitors at this time.
I second that.
Okay, so do you have any comments or discussion about this?
Again, I want to make sure we have proper outreach if we do take it down.
Okay, we can add that to the motion, including proper outreach. Will you second that, Mr. Widmer?
Yes.
Okay. Anthony, can you do the roll call? Councilmember DeGolia, do we have you?
yes.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay, your screen went black.
You don't have my picture.
Okay, there you go.
Councilmember Hawkins,
No.
Councilmember DeGolia,
Yes,
Councilmember Widmer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lemprus,
Nay.
and Mayor Lewis.
Aye. Okay. Well, that was painful. I
So
think that's
can I just make a comment? Because I thought that the way the vice mayor laid it out, and I adjusted it and to sort of, I create 4 categories. I understand that we've addressed the 2 issues in the staff report, but we haven't addressed the issue of replacement trees for either Mount Vernon or Tuscaloosa. And I think, and maybe it's just a direction issue to staff, but I think it's extremely important that staff come back with a recommendation for replacement trees. And it doesn't have to be just one tree, but replacement trees, the possibility, and I haven't looked at either of these locations, but the possibility of replacement trees in both of those locations. And
okay. I think that within the agenda item, I think that direction is part of the agenda item. So
right, I do too.
do you have enough direction with that, city manager and
Yes,
Sally?
we do. And those replacements could either be in, at, or near where those trees came from. So, and
Vice
we
Mayor,
residents.
Want to add to that, Vice Mayor? Want to add to that?
I think there's an issue to be resolved, or at least to be aware of, about whether we're open to having trees in the middle of the road, which I actually still am. I think it's a
I
challenge
am too,
thing.
but that's not on the agenda.
Well,
I
it is
think-
not replacing these trees. I believe it is. So my point is, staff, if you're going to make a recommendation, I at least prefer to have that included as a possibility.
Good, yeah, that's good direction. And Councilmember Widmer?
Yeah, I just thought that we should also add the size of the tree, because I thought that you and Rick made good comments about it doesn't have to be a 24-inch box, you know. It can be a
Large.
very large tree.
Yes. Cost is no issue. Bring us back cost. Look at him, he's going, because I do believe that we can get some private funding to replace these trees.
Well,
I've
let's
heard-
find out what the cost is and then see if there's the funding available.
That's what okay. All right,
Okay.
can we move on? I'd like to move on.
So would I.
Okay, speaking of donations, item number 12 is consideration of acceptance of a $52,250 donation in support of the purchase of additional automated license plate readers, ALPRSs, and direction regarding the lease of additional ALPR cameras. And I do believe we have our chief of police on
He
the
is on the
line.
line. He is on the line. While he unmutes, I'll give the introduction.
See him. Is he under Lynn?
No, he's there.
Oh, there he
That's his audio, I believe, but I'll give the brief introduction for that. So staff received a donation of 52,000, or the offer of donation, 52,250 for a 2-year agreement for the placement of additional ALPR cameras to help fill the gaps in the town's camera system. The donor has requested to remain anonymous, but has indicated that he or she would consider making an additional donation in support of continuing the 10 ALPRs in the future. As noted in the staff report, there are presently 33 camera locations throughout town. Most are already installed, but some are in the progress of installation. The list of 10 additional locations that are in the staff report for the new cameras are provided by the chief, is where the police department's evaluation has concluded that there are gaps in the system of coverage, and recommendation is for those sites. The council is free to make amendments or comments regarding that list, of course. Staff recommends that the council authorize the acceptance of the $52,250 donation and approve the additional 10 locations for the ALPR cameras. So the chief's here to answer any more detailed questions the council may have regarding this item.
Okay, thank you. Any member of the council have a question, clarifying question for the chief or city manager about this? Councilmember Widmer?
Yeah, Chief, you said that in the report, it seems that you're implying that these extra 10 locations that you've identified plugs all the holes. Is that how I read that? Or was that just, it gets closer?
No, pretty much from our perspective, it pretty much completes what we're calling our flock ALPR fence around town.
Well, I disagree with that because there are a lot of other areas I'll mention later in comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of council have a question? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Chief, last time this came up, I think John Mulback, somebody came in and said that the neighbors hadn't been sufficiently consulted before we started putting things up. Well, can you tell me what the process is? If something's going out in front of my house, how am I contacted, and how far, how many neighbors do you contact? How does that work?
So that's what our flock coordinator, one of our sergeants, takes care of. There is community outreach just to let them know what we're putting in, what it is and what it isn't. And to date, I would say the vast majority of the comments have been very positive.
But we notified, I just want to make sure, we notify the person whose house is closest, and also 2 other neighbors or 3?
Very
One?
close
How does it work?
proximity, yeah, very close proximity to the camera.
Okay.
Any other council member have a question for the chief? Diana?
Do the flock cameras have audio?
No, they do not.
Is it a regular camera, or is it just it catching just the license plate, nothing else?
It's just catching the digital image of the plate. It can at times capture an image of the vehicle itself, and there may be an instance where it may capture an occupant. It's not designed for that. It's not facial recognition.
Okay.
Any other member of the public council have a question? Any member of the public would like to speak on this? We'll bring it back for comments from council. Any council member have a comment on this? Councilmember Widmer, yes.
Yeah, so Chief, I think that while there is a lot of coverage on the east side of town, I don't think that it's fully covered. Encinal is not covered going eastward. Somebody could enter in on Encinal, then turn right or turn left on Middlefield and not be covered, not be picked up, because we're covering things coming off of ECR. I would recommend you put one at a minimum on Encinal, okay? But we do have exposure on all those streets coming on the going eastward. So you took care of the west side of town. That's good, great. But I don't think the east side is fully covered. I can give you 3 or 4 different routes, which I won't waste the time of everybody here to point out to you where those holes are. And I've gone over them with the city manager.
Does city manager agree with you?
I'll let him speak.
Actually, I'll toss that over to the chief. The chief knows where cars are coming and going. So if there are gaps, there isn't a camera on Encinal, but it may be picked up by other cameras as the vehicle progresses through town. I just don't have an exact map in my head of where each one of them is.
Yeah, that's correct to some extent. I mean, in response to Councilmember Whitmer, we do take a look and we're just trying to make the most strategic decisions that we can make. And then there's always room for additional cameras. We have the public-private partnership has been very successful. We've had additional offers of cameras, particularly on the west side. As for now, we're telling them that what we have in place and what will be coming with these 10, we feel comfortable that we do have a very good network of the cameras. And that's something that we can look at and go back to these residents, because when they do call us or contact us for a camera, it isn't particularly that they want it in front of their house. They just want to help the community and kind of rely on us to give them the advice where we think it could be placed.
Okay. I have a question. We're not, there was discussion about cameras along ECR.
That's correct. So initially we were advised by Flock that they didn't think their technology would be able to handle the traffic volume on ECR. With a reassessment by Flock and a site visit, they are able to handle ECR with a total of 2 cameras in one direction and 2 in the other. And the representative of this anonymous donor indicated that they're interested in funding those as well, which would be at least 11,000 with some additional costs maybe related to Caltrans permitting.
How many would that be? Did you say 7 or 10?
4, 2 in each direction.
Oh, 4.
On ECR.
2 in each direction. Okay. All right. Okay. So Vice Mayor. Yeah.
Just one last question to you. Chief, how are we discussing the ongoing costs when someone makes a contribution? Are we telling them the town will pick it up or that we'll go back to them? Or what are you saying about that $2,000 annually?
Yeah, it's 2,500 actually. We were given a deal on the initial 21. That question came up from the Lloyden Park residents as a follow-up to the crime that occurred there and their outreach to purchase 3 cameras. We make no promises whatsoever because that question comes up. You know, what happens 2 years from now and we decide either there's new technology or we don't want to support it anymore. The simple answer is they just get removed.
Okay.
And I think it's something that, you know, at that time, come to council and say, just so you know, these cameras are scheduled to be removed. There's no more private funding. You know, what would you like to do? Ultimately, if the decision is no, then the cameras are removed.
Or we could go back to the private funder and say, or the neighborhood or whatever, because I know that I'm part of a neighborhood group that has funded the cameras in my neighborhood.
Right, that would be an additional option if there is still interest from the residents, which I think there would be, and say your money can now fund these cameras.
Right, right. Okay. Councilmember DeGolia?
We in comments?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's terrific that we have a resident that has offered more than $50,000 to support this program. And I think that the program is very significant. We have 33 cameras deployed. I think 12 of them have been privately supported. We've got another 12 or 10 that are going to be privately supported. And if I understand what the chief just said, there's an additional 4 that the donor is willing to support on El Camino. I don't know if we need Caltrans permission to put up a camera on El Camino. We probably do because it's their road. Mm-hmm. But I think that I think it's awesome that we have residents that have supported the program that we've initiated and that the police department has shown is effective. Excuse me. I do think that we will find over time that there are some cameras that aren't effective, that we thought they would be effective and we're just not going to get very much information from them. And it turns out that the police recommend that we don't need that camera. if that happens and it's one of the cameras that we as a town funded, I think we can decide, to reduce our costs by letting the camera go and not continuing to pay the subscription for it. Or we could move it to a different location. And probably the same is true with this donor, where if this donor has indicated that he or she is willing to support a continuing deployment beyond the initial 2-year period. And I just think we have to monitor these cameras and we can fill some gaps. I think Bill's right. There's going to be gaps. There's always going to be gaps. There's ways that if somebody really is industrious and wants to get in to the town without being seen, they can do it. There's not a camera on Camino de los Arboles. So there's not cameras on a whole bunch of streets, and we can't put a camera on every street. We just target the ones that are the most likely, and then based on experience, we'll make some judgments. But hey, to have 43 or 47 cameras in Atherton, this might be the biggest deployment of plot cameras at any city in California.
Especially per capita.
Yeah, especially per capita. So I think I feel proud that we've done this. I feel proud that we have a resident that wants to support this. I feel proud that the police department has put together this private-public partnership that has been so successful. It's a huge success, and I think that we did a great job initiating it. So I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and I'm prepared to make a motion to accept this.
I think we're ready for a motion.
Well, I think we should accept the contribution and accept the police department's recommendations.
Well, I'll second that, but just point out that I think that we still have holes in there. We need to continue to try and get those addressed. But I do appreciate them doing this, and I think it's good.
But that's not part of the motion.
It's part of my comment.
Understand. All right, so we have a motion to accept from Councilmember DeGoya and a second to cure the motion. So Anthony, can you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Hawkins,
Yes.
DeGolia,
Yes.
Widmer,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Lempres,
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
Aye, thank you.
Who was the second on that motion? Just from
It was Widmer.
Thank you.
You got confused because he muddied up the waters with his comments instead of just saying, yes, I second it. But we enjoy that anyway, don't we, Bill? Okay. So
Yeah, I enjoy it.
you do, I know. Okay, so now, oh my gosh, this is long awaited. To item number 13, it's to review and approve the draft 2021 Sustainability Work Plan and Budget as recommended by the Environmental Programs Committee. And Stephanie, thank you for hanging in there with us. Sorry it's taken so long. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So tonight you are being asked to consider approval of the 2021 Draft Sustainability Work Plan as recommended by the Environmental Programs Committee. So in the last several years, the EPC has requested a similar work plan, but has been primarily focused on a town-sponsored Earth Day event for the community. However, in light of COVID, this fiscal year, the EPC has drafted a different approach to its recommended work plan while attempting to still try and engage and educate the community in topics related to the town's adopted climate action plan and sustainability as a whole. So the draft work plan consists of two primary components. The first being the proposed purchase of a commemorative plaque to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. The idea was to install such a plaque at one of the new native trees that are slated to be planted at the Newtown Permit Center once landscaping is ready. The second component of the draft work plan is the purchase of plantable seed bookmarks to be mailed to every resident in town. So these plantable bookmarks can be printed on as well with educational and informative text on resources, tips, tricks, and other useful information that could be relevant to homeowners within town on the topics, of course, of sustainability. So these seeded bookmarks would ultimately grow into native flowers upon their planting. So the estimated budget to implement the proposed work plan is estimated at approximately $4,700, which is within the confirmed available budget of $5,000 slated to such efforts. So happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That's very, very creative. I see Councilmember Whitmer has a question.
Sure. Actually, two questions. You're not going to put the plaque down until next year. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So what was the reasoning for buying it this year and then having to store it as opposed to just include it in your budget for next year? And second question is, how much information can you put on these? I mean, the seedable, plantable bookmarks, that sounds interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to plant those, but how much information can you really put on a bookmark?
How big are they?
Yeah, they look like they were small in the report.
So to answer your first question, why is the recommendation to purchase now as opposed to waiting until the landscaping has already been planted? The EPC was cognizant that the slated or available $5,000 fund would disappear if not utilized within this fiscal year. And without knowing if indeed there would be budget slated for next fiscal year, they are recommending that the plaque be purchased and held onto until the landscaping be installed, which understanding where the construction is, knowing that won't happen until next fiscal year, after July. Second question, how much information? Well, it depends on how large the selected font is. I mean, what we've seen with some of the sample bookmarks, I included a few links in the staff report.
I looked at them.
Yeah, you're probably going to get a few. They're pretty small, yes. You can get some website addresses on there, phone numbers, not too much textual information that you would overread, but primarily focused on a few keywords and websites, I believe.
Okay, I thought you were going to try and put a lot more on there from the write-up. So that's why I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeGoya has a question.
Yes, I have a question. So and this may address what Bill was getting to, but the bookmark, I assume, would be sent in some kind of an envelope or package. And couldn't you include, along with the bookmark, some written material in that envelope or package?
Absolutely. The idea, or at least what was estimated and investigated, was that the size of the bookmark would fit in a standard mailing envelope. So an 8.5 by 11 informational sheet, double-sided, could certainly accompany that and not increase the estimated postage that's been incorporated into the proposed budget.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, any member of the public have a question for Stephanie about this report? Okay, bring it back to council for comments.
I have a comment.
Diana?
I think the idea of the seeds things, and they came up with some creative ideas like seed you at the library and things like that. To me, I think it's a nice opportunity to get the word out, but to me, it's really important that we use it effectively. And so that we spend a little time to deliberate on what's going to go on that thing, because we're not going to be doing that very often.
Right.
So the idea of having links to websites, the Pacific Green Energy links, rebates, all sorts of things like that can be done, but what goes on, it's important.
Exactly. Okay, Councilmember DeGoya, you have a comment?
I do.
Okay.
It looks very creative to me. You know, an innovative approach to what to do during this pandemic when you can't have an Earth Day meeting like we have had in the past. So I want to congratulate the EPC and I want to support their innovation. I do think that we should include in that envelope a 2-page flyer like Stephanie indicated could be done within the budget that they have created. And I think that flyer, and I'm sure staff will prepare that flyer, and I think that flyer should identify that, you know, this is being sent out by the town at the encouragement of the Environmental Protection Committee, and that it is in place of doing a Earth Day public event like we've done in the past. I also think that we should take that opportunity to publicize the openings in the various committees that we have, because we don't have much opportunity to get in front of our residents with these committee opportunities. And I think it means that we get less interest, but I think there are people that are interested. So I'd like to see us take advantage of this recommendation to include some information about that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember DeGoya. I want to say that in the agenda packet, there is an example, a printout of the trifold that we put together, sustaining the future. And that could be printed very easily and folded and inserted. And so we've already got the marketing piece on that about saving money, saving energy, and saving. So that would be my recommendation if it's going to go into a little mailer. I'm a little worried about mixing metaphors with. I think if you promote the Environmental Programs Committee opportunities, I think that's one, or joining committees, that's another one. But Councilmember Widmer has a hand up, and then Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian would also like to make a statement.
Yeah, so first off, I'd take the $200 out for the plaque. I realize that's trite, but I would do it. I liked your little, when I got it, and I like it here going over it again, the little handout that you have, with the exception of rethinking waste, because that's a trademark of Rethink Waste, the South Bay Waste Management Authority. So maybe you could change that to reducing waste or something like that. Okay.
We had it first because this was done about 3 years ago, actually.
They've had that for over 10 years. Okay. So I would recommend.
It's not trademarked.
I would recommend that
it is not trademarked.
Well, it does always have a little R there afterwards. So anyway, I would recommend that you reconsider when you're doing the mass printing. But I think sending this out again, even though you did it once, I think it's a great reminder for people. It is a good document.
Okay.
And I'm ambivalent to have it.
Do you have a comment now?
I just wanted to share with everyone that we have a new intern, and the idea for the seed mailing, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, came from our new intern. So for me, that was exciting that we got some young people involved and that they're thinking about these things. And it seems to be a success because the first idea she had, we all jumped on it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it was very creative. I didn't have a chance to tell you. I thought that it was very creative, and I'm just thrilled to receive this report and to fund it. And I think that we should use our budget, every penny that we have, and not roll it over, because you never know when. I think that, Stephanie, you're right about that. Vice Mayor Lumpers, do you want to make a comment?
Just a quick one. We actually had the seed bookmarks that were, I can't remember what the event was. It might have been Earth Day a few years ago, or it was out in front of the old library.
No.
And it worked. We planted them. It was, my daughter was probably, I don't know, 8 or so at the time. And just a good experience, just to let you know.
It's very cute. It's a really great idea. Great idea. Diana?
Well, one last thing on what we said, wildflowers, but we should make sure they're native wildflowers. And it would be a plus if they were attracted bees, because bees are not doing very well right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So I will call for a motion. I'd like to make the motion to accept the and approve the sustainability work plan and budget as recommended by the EPC with incorporating comments from the council members for the inserts, marketing inserts into the mailer, and go forth and conquer with that. Can I call for a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Diana. Anthony, can I have the roll call, please?
You can. Council Member Hawkins,
Yes.
Council Member DeGolia,
Yes.
Widmer,
I think you need to unmute.
I think it was begrudgingly yes or something to that effect.
You couldn't hear me. I had it muted.
It was your facial expression.
No, I was reading. I said yes, but I don't like the $200. That's a government mentality. Spend every
That's
penny
okay.
that
We
you have.
are in the government, yes.
Yeah, I know, but we're supposed to be business people too.
Mm,
Okay.
Vice Mayor
Aye.
and Mayor.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for all your hard work. Thank you, EPC committee. Okay. On to the next agenda item is item number 14. It's the request for proposal for a sustainability coordinator consultant. And I'm going to let city manager kick this off for us, please.
Sure, and Stephanie will come in after I do a brief introduction. As the council is aware, staff recommended the addition of a consultant to serve as the town's sustainability coordinator as part of the fiscal year 21-22 budget. This item consists of the RFP to solicit those proposals for work. The firm or individual selected would work directly through the city manager's office in support of the town's climate action plan efforts and the environmental programs committee work. As the council is aware, the climate action plan covers a wide range of work areas and crosses across all departments, which is why the city manager's office makes better sense for that individual to work or that firm to work. The RFP outlines some of the anticipated duties and roles of the coordinator across the broad spectrum. Prior to release of the RFP, I may make some adjustments to the evaluation criteria that's listed in it to provide more points toward experience and qualifications as opposed to the budget part of it. The proposals are due by May 21st and would be on the June 16th council agenda for award of contract. Staff recommends approval of the RFP for release. And as I mentioned, Stephanie's here tonight to answer any more detailed questions the council may have regarding preparation of the RFP itself.
Okay, I just want to clarify, in your report, you said that this draft that we're looking at tonight, you are going to revise this in some way?
The criteria listing for review of the proposals. During some of my one-on-ones with council, it was pointed out that we have every area except the cost listed at 10-point value. And we probably need to massage that a little bit because we want to really look at and give some value to the experience of the individual or firm that we're selecting. So probably
Okay.
reducing the cost down to 25 and spreading the difference among some of the other categories.
I see. So I have some comments about the service requirements, scope of services on that. But right now, do we have any questions? Okay. Any member of the public have any questions about this? Bring it back to council for comments on this RFP process. If I may, council members, on page 7 of the report, in the scope of services, I did not see, it talks about item B, serving as staff liaison to attend bi-monthly or more EPC meetings. I mean, I know that at some of my EPC meetings recently, we were talking about having monthly EPC meetings because, you know, bi-monthly, it just kind of things, you know, the energy kind of got dispersed. So I don't know if you want to add that. And then who would be preparing the agendas and staff reports and notifying committee members of the meetings to committees and posting the meetings to public? Would that be this coordinator's job also? And if so, that should be listed. I mean, it's pretty extensive, the scope of work, but I just didn't see those specifics in there.
So it moves through the city manager's office, which includes the city clerk. So the city clerk would be involved in that process as well. But as you note in section B, it does say serve as a staff liaison, EPC meetings, including the preparation and distribution of all meeting agenda and meeting materials. So this individual would be doing those sorts of things as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is a very extensive RFP as it's written. I see Councilmember DeGolia, you have a comment?
I do.
Good.
I thought that the RFP was extremely thorough and as the mayor said, extensive. I did note that the EPC encouraged it to be as user-friendly and readable as possible, which may have been a recommendation to tone it down a little bit, but I thought it was very good, very thorough. The one comment I do have is when I look at the timetable is that the RFP be issued on April 23rd, which is at the end of this week, and that the submission deadline for questions be the 7th and proposals May 7th, and that proposals be 2 weeks later on May 21st. And I was concerned that that may not give as much time as we have because it won't be considered by the council until June 16th. So I would recommend moving those dates back 1 week, and I don't think that would interfere with as long as staff would be comfortable. I haven't talked to the city manager about this, but as long as staff would be comfortable that that could be accomplished and the recommendation made June 16th, which I think is the right time for it to come to council. If it were pushed back a week, I think it would be better. So
I think we could probably manage that.
I would recommend that.
To give the consultants more time to respond.
Well, and one of the recommendations of EPC is to post it at the Stanford environmental, there's a bulletin board in the environmental programs section at Stanford, which will go online, but people don't respond really fast. So I'd rather it sit up there for 3 weeks than 2 weeks. I think we have more likelihood of a response.
I think that's good direction. I agree with that.
So just so I understand that, 'cause I think what I heard, Rick, is keep the April 23rd date and move back the May 7 and May 21 dates, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly right.
Okay.
Move the May 7 and May 21 date back 1 week each.
Back or forward?
Well, however you want to say, move it to May 14th and May 28th.
Right.
He's saying forward.
Yeah. we get it.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Any member of the public have a question, discussion item? No? Call for a motion.
Move that we approve the city manager's recommended RFP for a sustainability coordinator for 1,040 hours per year, essentially, and give him the latitude to adjust the criteria as he sees fit.
Sounds good. Do I have a second of that?
I'll second it as long as the motion will agree to the timetable adjustment.
Oh, yeah, and include the timetable adjustment that was just discussed.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
Councilmember Whitmer.
Yeah, I just made the motion.
Great, thanks. Hawkins.
Wait, she's unmuting.
Yes.
And
Okay.
DeGolia,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Limpris,
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
Aye. This is going to be great. It's really going to be great. Thank you all so much on that. Okay, so now we are on item number 15, which is our police annual report for 2021. City Manager, do you have anything to preamble on this, or should I just turn it over to the chief? It was a
The only-
beautiful presentation in the packet, my goodness.
That's the only preamble I was going to give. It's a beautiful presentation in the packet. So if the chief doesn't want to put it up on the screen, that's pleasure of the council.
And I think the great city clerk is going to put it up there.
Oh.
Are you, maybe we should ask.
I think we all read it.
Say what?
I said, I think we all read it. Why don't we just ask our questions and move on?
Okay. But I do want to make a note, I don't like being one up by our finance director. I did originally have 100 slides. George made me whittle it down to 30. I'm a little disappointed, but if you read it and you have questions, fine. I was going to do a high view, but if you're fine with it, I'm actually most interested in your questions and comments anyway.
Vice Chair Empress.
I just want to say, I agree with everything they said. I think you took direction from Robert Barron.
I think it's a good practice to assume we've read these and go right to questions. And to that extent, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Chief, can you you mentioned succession planning as a challenge. Can you tell us what you've got in mind and how it's working, not just for your position, going down a couple of layers?
Yeah, I'll tell you, George knows, actually, we have a bet going for me to get to full staffing. And every time I get close, we take a step back. As we know, Monica's leaving. That was a shock to me. It's a big hole to fill. She's done such an outstanding job. I'm happy for her in her new position. I think it's a good career move for her. And then also Sergeant Robbins, who resigned. His wife is in the financial profession. She got a promotion to Texas. So that's what moved them there. But luckily, in our development and succession, we are in a position to pivot quickly and fill those. We have sergeant interviews on Tuesday to fill Sergeant Robbins' position. We have 2 internal candidates that I feel confident will be easy to make a selection of that point. We've also, thanks to you approving the overhire when Sergeant Kolker retires in October, I'll be able to make another internal promotion to sergeant, and then that academy graduate will fill that position. So at that time, George, I hope you're listening, unless the other wheels fall off, we will be at full staffing. And I'm confident. What's interesting, and Councilmember Lumpers, that's a good question. You probably noticed we've quickly become very young, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that it looks like a challenge, I like to call it a good thing, and it gives us an opportunity to mold these folks, professional development, give them all the career opportunities they can, so we can have a success like Commander Larson in our succession planning to promote, which, there's nothing more proud for a chief, especially a small agency, to promote somebody from within. And I got to tell you, we've got some real talented people. No slight comments from the past, but I got to tell you, the positive energy, it feels like we're really running on 8 cylinders, day shift, night shift, the things that we're doing, the comments we're getting back from residents. I'm really proud of our folks. And then, noted recently too, concerns across the country. I was recently asked by a resident about the racial balance of our police department. And I'm proud to say we have over 1/3 of our department are people of color, including women, and they're able to speak Spanish, French, Russian, Fijian, Hindi. And so I think we're very representative of the area that we serve and the residents that we serve. And so I guess, it was a long answer to your question, but what we do is we sit down with our folks, we identify talent, we identify their goals, we put training and efforts in those areas so we can always be cultivating those folks to fill the openings that are coming down the road, which I hope there won't be any more openings for a while, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, you're going to have a beautiful new office and police station to move into. That will really be attractive to the new recruits. I see that Council Member DeGoya has his hand raised, so he has a question or a comment at this point for you.
Yeah, I've got a couple. First, I share the chief's assessment of Monica and the disappointment at her loss, but I'm glad for her also. I hope we can fill that position quickly. I think she's done a remarkable job. I also want to say, please convey to Sergeant Robbins that we are sorry that he's leaving. He has been a wonderful member of our force. And I've had several interactions with him, and I just think he's a terrific guy. I'm really, really sorry to lose him. I understand why we are, but because I know he's been happy. But he's a tremendous member of the force, and I think you're building a great force, Chief. So, you know, this happens, and it's happened a lot to Atherton in the past. I hope that with the young force that we've got, that we're going to find a good number of them that grow old with us. My question is, as I go through your report, there's really a notable difference. And it's not exactly consistent, but there's a notable difference between 2019 and 2020. And you've given us a good deal of information. You know, I in my mind, I can understand the reduced citations and interactions for traffic safety enforcement in 2020 because that was the pandemic versus 2019. But then when I go on and there's reduced collisions and in 2020 versus 2019. But when I go on in our investigations in a good deal of the police work, it looks like there's reduced you know, investigations, reduced different police engagements in 2020 than 2019. So I would just like you to comment on that, the comparative years.
Yeah, that's a good observation, particularly our investigations, which we attribute directly to COVID and the fact that, you know, so many people were staying around, because crime across the country and in our area has dropped in significant areas, except for homicide, unfortunately. And of course, luckily we're insulated from that again in 2020 and so far this year. The team did well. You know, I got to imagine, especially these young officers, they want to go out and work, and they've been going out and working. We did have some cautionary times with COVID. They're, you know, a little frustrating for them, but you see from the traffic stats, you know, they continue to work hard. Our crime stats, overall, Part 1 crimes, 2019 to 2020 are pretty much a mirror of each other. You know, burglaries did go up. And so far this year, just so you know, we've had 13 burglaries. One of those that we've attributed again to the Chilean gang members. And so we're kind of on track now, probably for hopefully we can reduce that. We continue to work with our residents. That is the one area that we really need the support from to put a cap on these burglaries. We're getting a lot of takers on our crime prevention through environmental design reviews and tours, getting a lot of great feedback from that. Continue to work on the alarm issue and continue to work at all times to get them to follow our instructions and our requests to make it look like somebody's home, etc.
So if I could just follow up, the other question it raised is, how are things going to change with the APLRs that we've deployed? And, you know, I don't know that you can accurately predict that, but maybe you have some thoughts about how you think that these statistics are going to change as a result of that deployment that you've done.
Well, what we hope, and it was part of, you know, one of the main selling points of this system, and it's been seen in other communities working with the Flock CEO and founder, is the deterrent factor of these cameras. And so while we've had, you know, successes in apprehending criminals, you know, the shooting in Lloyden Park, the large-scale jewelry heist in Lindenwood, that word gets out, and criminal element, they do pay attention and they're involved with technology. Our hope is, and I hate to say that we're dispersing them somewhere else, but that's my responsibility, is to keep our residents safe and secure as possible, is you're going to see impact from the deterrent of these cameras. As we continue to identify suspects, stolen cars, make those arrests, get it out in the public, get it out in the media.
Okay, thank you. Any other council member have a question or a comment? Hi, Councilmember Widmer, yes?
Okay, thanks, Chief. And first off, I thought it was a very good report, very comprehensive, and I appreciate the time you A, spent on it, and B, cut it down to 33 from 100 charts. So I just thought that some of the information, and I think I brought this up to the city manager, some of the information seemed to be, there needs to be a disconnect between what the city manager had in his report and what was here. But we don't need to go into that in detail, but I thought that there were some little errors there. I did note, though, happily, that the false alarms had gone down by about a third, or 15%, essentially. And I thought that that was good. Now, part of it, I would assume, is because people are home, so no one's going in. But I think that that's good news. And I have to, hopefully we're attributing it to the fact that, you've been doing a lot of communication on that and things like that. And if you have any comments on that, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, as much as I like to say we've been successful in those efforts, we do contribute it to COVID, that the majority of people are home, and so they're not activating their alarms like they used to. Even though our burglaries still occurred, you would assume that those would go down because so many people are home for extended period of time, but they still did occur. And again, we were hit by those Chilean gang members late in December and early in January, and continue to work that angle. In response to your question about some inaccuracies, some of our statistics I found out after speaking with George today is on our bicycle stats. He has a set of data that comes from the commander, and we get a set of data that comes from our transportation committee. So there's something wonky there, and we're going to be looking at that tomorrow.
Okay, and then on the canine, do we have 2 dogs or 3? I thought we only had 2.
We only have 2, and the one with Officer Green, who's out on a medical issue, that dog has not been active. You can't typically reassign it. From the assessment from our trainers is to let Officer Green continue to kennel it and work with it. And if he does come back, then we can re-engage with that canine. And if not, our local resident, who we all love, especially the police department, Ann Ramsey, has already signaled that she's in a position to purchase an additional dog. And
okay, but we only have 2 active ones, although one is kind of in. There's an illness associated effect with its activity now. It doesn't get out much. Okay.
Correct.
All right. I didn't know, because there were 3 pictures. There was Quincy also up there.
Right. And that was Crystal Pronsky's dog that was retired.
Yeah. Okay. Other than that, it was a great report. And
Thank you.
I'm sorry to hear about Monica, but you're doing a good job recruiting the people. I like the people that you have around you.
Thank you, Councilmember Widmer. I'm going to call on Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian. She has her hand raised for a question or comment.
I just wanted to say, given the time that we're at right now, where police reform is the top of everyone's head, we're reading about it endlessly. Your report had some very positive, including what you just said about the fact that we have diversity. I would like to see us get some of this information out to the public, maybe in one of Anthony's Did You Know or something like that, and just take this moment. I find that if you reach out to people when they're thinking about it, they're more likely to take action. So that with emergency stuff, but with this, it'd be really nice to make some sort of statements, some positive statements.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, good. Okay, any other comments? If not, we'll thank the chief and his staff for what a good report and all the good work that you're doing for our
Thank you
county.
very much.
Okay.
Just FYI, Madam Mayor, the full staffing thing is a lobster dinner. So if he ever gets to full staffing for at least one day, I owe him a lobster dinner.
Well, there's a great lobster restaurant up in Portola Valley. If you've never been.
I hope this is being recorded because he's never said one day before. So now I've got him really boxed in on that.
Yeah, one
And
day.
if you don't, you have to take all of us out for a lobster dinner.
All right.
All right. Okay, moving on to item number 16, which is our town center project update. I don't see Marty.
That's me.
Okay.
Okay. So the staff report includes an update on the progress of the town center. And as most of you can tell by walking around it and sometimes through it, it is progressing very well. There is still an expectation that we will be inside the building for a soft opening of admin and police by mid to late July, and that the library will follow that in August, and that the formal grand opening would occur in October. So as they finish up the buildings, they'll start moving on to the landscaping part of it and tearing down the old police department. So what's on your agenda this evening, though, are 2 items. The first is an action item. It is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment number 2. This is for all the public spaces for the facility, which includes the council chambers, public chairs, the lobby chairs, upstairs and downstairs, as well as the outdoor furnishings. And then also providing feedback and direction on the donor pathway designs that were put together by WRNS and SWA. We have representatives on the phone from KBM Hogue, I believe. And I'll put up the presentation on the furniture item. There is one change in it from your packet, and that is for the 2 lobby chairs. They're being changed from the trestle lounge chairs to the Mills Bernhardt chairs. But I can run through that pretty quickly on the screen if you'll allow me to do that. And let me put that up just one second.
I just want to say I've had the great pleasure working as an ad hoc committee member with Councilmember Widmer and staff in working through these selections. As you know, we've had several sit visits and in evaluating, the costs and everything, we've made adjustments accordingly. So I'm happy about that. And I think we've made some good suggestions and selections for us with the recommendation of KBM Hogue professionals. And if Councilmember Widmer wants to add anything to that, happy to have him.
Nope, you said it all. I'm glad that we are coming to conclusion on them, and I think we've made some good choices, and we've done it with a view on the finances as well. So I thought we did a good job. Hopefully you do too.
I do. Thank you.
All right, so we have this is the lobby area, and down in the lobby area, there are 3 public bench areas in the areas as you come in through the building. That's B1, B2 over here. And then you've got 2 chairs here. This was the change from the Trestle Glen to the Bernhardt chair that we were talking about. And so those are this B1, B2 are the benches in those outside areas. And this is the Mills lounge chair that'll go in the lobby area. There'll be 2 of those along with a trestle table in between or next to. Then we have, as you head upstairs, there are some work tables out in the community development lobby and staffing and public chairs at the public counter. And those basically are, as Councilmember Widmer indicated, an eye toward the economic sort of it, are more industrial looking office tasky type chairs, because that's where you're going to get a lot of contractors and workers coming in and out. And so you want something a little more durable in those areas. And then these are some high top chairs that will go behind one of the workstations out in that community development lobby area. Then you've got some tables that are there as well that those chairs sit at. And there are 3 of those. Those are what those tables looks like. That'll be upstairs in that lobby.
It's the TB2, correct?
The TB2 is the high top
high
one
top?
with the bar stools. And then the TB5 and TB6 are the lower ones back here and here. And then the council chambers chairs, the public chairs in the council chambers are again stackable with cushions.
There's 28 with arms and 28 without arms, mix and match. The ones that Councilmember Widmer chose initially, off of wraps that we thought were really beautiful, ended up to be hugely expensive. So this is a nice compromise with the black and the leather seat.
Keeps the budget on track.
Yeah.
And then we also have in the upstairs.
But the other ones were more comfortable.
They actually had a smaller little seat, truly.
Yeah, but we made a good choice.
Yeah.
A 4-top seating area in the upstairs community development lobby with 4 chairs and a table, coffee table in between. And that's the Torre Baggio chairs. And there's the coffee table, the Comer coffee table that goes in between those. This is probably by far the most expensive furniture we have, but it's pretty durable, I suspect.
Where is that?
That is upstairs in the community development space. It's a 4-top. Let me go back one. It's right here.
It's in the planning area,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
All those other ones are workstations, and that's more for sitting, and they're durable, they're wide seats. So, you know, contractors or, you know, residents coming and sitting and discussing things. Yeah.
Right. And then we have some outdoor furnishings within the civic court. There's 5 different areas. And there's the side chairs, the table, and then a stone tables as well.
I see.
Within that
And
section. There's
these
2 of those.
colors, that it's going to be in the sage green.
Yeah.
And it really, it's called the tree. It's like a, well, yeah, the tree. It's,
The forest stackable chair.
yeah. It's really nice if you see it in person. It's really
And
lovely.
It's comfortable too. When
It
you sit in
is.
it, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So this is in the civic court. So those would be presumably left outdoors. Is that the idea?
Yes,
That's
they're
correct.
outdoor furniture. Hmm.
And that they are different from what will be on, is the library, I take it, responsible for the seating that will be on the deck outside of the cafe
Yes.
and the library?
Yep.
Yeah, that was in the library packet, correct.
Yeah,
They
we
already
had
picked it,
had
yeah.
nothing to do with that.
Ours are going to be among the trees.
Hopefully they're heavy enough not to walk away.
Oh,
Well,
these
that's
are-
right. That's going to be your problem, George. You got to take care of them.
Thanks.
Not obvious.
And you know, this image calls for 4 chairs around a table. I think we elected to only put to purchase 3, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah, we cut
Three
it. We
for
cut it
each.
back. We cut it back by
Uh-huh.
4.
And
No,
if you have a,
and when it says quantity 16 for 3 tables, that would be 4 for each table.
No, but that's not what we said to George.
Did you want to amend that?
Well, that's what we wrote to you. that we
Yeah,
would-
because
we cut
there's
it back.
4
We cut it back
tables.
by 4. We took 4 less chairs.
and we
So
have
we-
4 tables.
So 4
Yeah.
tables, and I may have gotten that incorrect. 4 tables, 2 stones.
Yeah.
12 chairs.
So 4 tables and 2 stones, is 6 seating areas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh. You're saying there's chairs go around the stone, George, is that what you're saying?
So you, around the tables, you're gonna have 3, and around the stones, you're gonna have 2.
Well, the stones can be moved. They're not heavy stones. And so
Right.
people are going to carry, you know, like you have an extra person coming up, you just grab a stone.
Or you could sit on it, you know?
So
Yeah,
you're gonna use the stones as seating, is that what we're saying?
Mhm, mhm.
right. That's correct. That's what we
Okay.
were thought.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the thought. Okay, so 4 tables, 2 stones, and 12 chairs.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I think that was in my email summary. Mhm.
Yeah, I must have missed that. We can amend
Mhm.
the quote for that.
Well, yeah.
And that's the basic approval of the FF&E 2. That concludes all of the exterior and interior public space furniture. Layla? You have to unmute, I believe.
Okay, gosh, I've been trying to unmute for a while. So I can change the quantity to 12. That's not a problem. But there was a question prior to this about, I'm sorry, guys. I've been trying to get. Okay, so there were some quantity issues for, the screen keeps changing. So we want to keep everything as is with the first floor and for the first floor lobby with the Bernhardt.
Right.
Yeah, or Bernhardt, can you go back? I can't change anything.
I'll go back to the Bernhardt.
Thank you. So go back. So we're going to go to the Bernhardt Mitt with the trestle HBF. The prices are correct there.
Right.
And then you change the next page. All
Next
right.
page.
Yeah, I
Nothing
got
changed
it.
on these. This is
Got
your
it.
current presentation, Layla.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can-
So I sent an updated presentation with new pricing based on the last email that I got. I think the
Yep.
biggest question is the outdoor furniture now that
Correct.
right.
That's what
So
changed.
you only went 12,
Yeah,
not 16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go back to the site
Oh.
plan. Go back to the site plan.
Yeah. I think one of the things is I have the Maya lens as being weighted, so you cannot move them.
The stones.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
well, I thought, Leila, that you put sand in them. And I thought that was for us to do. But they're
We
coming
do
in.
that. That's part of the installation.
Okay.
And
So-
where will that go? It's one of those table areas.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a miscommunication about the 12 versus 16. I saw that on the last email. I was going through it today,
Yeah.
but
Well, I think that we want to have where people can pull the stones up if they're, I mean, they can be weighted, but not like weighted.
they're weighted. They're weighted so you cannot take them.
Well, I moved yours that were up there on the
They're
patio.
not weighted. That wasn't weighted.
That was not weighted.
Councilmember
No.
Hawkins would like to make a comment on this.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Were the Mills chairs the ones that were in front of the donor wall?
Yes.
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 And
Yeah.
what was the color on those?
It's a leather.
Yeah, we haven't picked the exact leather, but it is similar to, do you see that below where it says Brisa Aztec?
It doesn't
Yeah.
look like what it is on the picture.
It doesn't. Yeah, Mayor
It's a
Lewis is
darker
correct.
leather.
Now, is that carpet that it's sitting on? Because right now there's a carpet inlay in the plans. Has that been picked already to match this chair?
You know, it really hasn't. And there's the recommended one that is come from the architect it's called it's like a mottled color. It's called indigo, but it looks black to me. I mean, I don't have a fabric swatch of it, so it's very hard. And there was no physical. And I've been to a carpet store, and I see something that we need to kind of match it to the terracotta tile and to, this, now that we're going to approve this. And, it's that piece of carpet can make or break that environment there, I think.
I have one, I agree with you totally. One other question, the green chairs, the green.
Wait,
tree
before
chairs.
you leave this, before you go to that question, let me follow up your question, because I had a question on this Mills chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the lobby.
Yeah, no, and you're suggesting this Mills lounge to replace the trestle lounge, which was in the staff packet.
Right.
The Mills lounge looks extremely boxy to me.
Yes.
And the trestle lounge looked much more open to me. I don't know how they are comfort wise. I think.
Well, let me just say,
Yeah,
let me
so can you
explain.
comment on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, let me explain the thought process about this. There are only 2 chairs spec'd in the main lobby area there.
Right.
And in the architectural renderings, if you that WRNS did with like people and chairs and stuff, they spec'd really a boxy looking chair. I feel very strongly that we want something that looks architectural in that area. There's only 2, and that doesn't scream lounge chair or living room chair or family room chair to come and sit in. The probability of people coming and just sitting in that chair is really, there's just 2 chairs kind of in front of this donor wall, and it's like an architectural statement. It's not like a chair environment, to
But
have
why do you like this boxy one rather than the trestle lounge?
because I just don't like the trestle lounge. It looks like a lounge chair. And I don't think it
Looks
goes
way
into
more
the lobby
comfortable.
area. This has more of a architectural feel and look to it. But I'm not going to die on this cross. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Well, I'm just asking your opinion. It looks, my opinion, just to look at them, and I haven't sat in them or touched them, is that the lounge chair looks way more comfortable and more open than this one, which
Right.
it's.
I
it may
personally
be
don't think we
architectural, but
want
it's not
people to
architectural.
hang around and sit in these chairs.
Yeah, the one here you're seeing, the Mills Lounge,
Yeah.
is very comfortable. The other one, it's packed tighter, so it's harder. You know, one of the things we went back and forth on is how if an older person sat in that chair, you know, could they get out of it easily? And, you know, that's where we were going back and forth between this one and the other one. But you know, one of the solutions is you put, like, you know, a pillow in the back of the Mills, you know, the other chair, so that they're not sitting so far back and sinking in.
You don't.
Yeah.
You're not
and
going to
so-
put a bolster on that. No.
Yeah, so all these chairs really are very comfortable chairs, and will hold up for a long period of time. But you know, this one kind of fits a little bit better. The other one looks more like a living room chair.
My personal opinion is that these chairs are not meant to be comfortable for people to sit around and lounge in, because the probability of them coming and sitting around and lounging, I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Okay. So Diana had a different question.
Yeah, the green tree chairs, are those the ones that people would be taking their coffee and sitting at to drink coffee from our cafe?
Outdoors, yes.
Conceivably, yes, but they're not, they don't go on the deck by the cafe where, you know, a lot of people will go get their coffee and sit out on the deck at the library deck, and, you know.
So it's not the main cafe area that these are at.
No,
Those
no.
are the ones that the library is providing?
Yeah, and we did
they
not
look anything like this, or we don't know?
No, these are in the, you know, understory of trees out in the civic court, kind of
Okay.
on DG path, or on, I don't know if they will be on any of the brick pathways. I don't think so. I think it's mostly the DG pathway, DG hardscape
Yep.
in the area, the L area between the Civic Center and the police department, you know, that environment there.
So I guess the decision points are Mills Lounge or Trestle Lounge.
Yeah.
Everything else has been kind of approved, I think. Well,
I mean, I think if the committee feels strongly that the Mills Lounge is better, I'm fine with it. The look of the other one is better to my eye, but you guys, I'm fine with your judgment if you feel strongly about it.
well, I do. I really do. If you don't like it, once you get it, I'll buy it from the town and take it home.
All right, that's a deal. Please put that in the minutes. How much does it cost? Okay, and there's going to be two of them at $17, $32, $76 each.
Yeah, don't forget the 76.
Well, that doesn't include tax, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks for bringing that up.
I'm convinced by Elizabeth's reasoning.
So if that's the decision on that one, then the other question is the stones. So it's 4 tables, 2 stones, and 12 chairs. Is that the final layout?
Yes, and you know, honestly, until you kind of get into your environment and start really placing it. I mean, you can look at these little drawings and site plans all you want. And those are just, you know, see, we've got the circles of the trees, and these are proposed shrubberies with the very, you know, slit outs and stuff, you know, and then the raised, I guess, bench, concrete bench is that. I mean, it's hard to envision where it is, and you get there and you go, okay, well, this little table, these are very small little tables. They're almost like bistro tables. They're not like, you know, that's why I think, you know, table for 4 is quite a lot. And it just, I think less is better right now, and then we'll see what we've got.
We can always buy more later.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stones, you know, they, you know, where are you going to place them? I mean, you're not going to send it to us filled. We're going to place it where we think is the right place to place it, in an appropriate spot. And, you know, then we fill it, and it's then heavy and you can't move it. And then we figure out what to do. But they're really cool. And there's just 2 of them, and they can be used as a seat, you know. There's, anyway, or don't get them right now.
Leila? I would assume that the stones, once they're filled, we could move with a dolly or something like that. Is that correct? You have to unmute. Anthony, can you assist her with unmuting?
We can all do it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I think I've gotten carpal tunnel just trying to unmute myself. Yes, so you can drag the stones around. They're very heavy once you put the sand in them, especially if it gets wet. They get really heavy. So you can, but
our public works folks could move them around with a dolly or something like that if we wanted to.
Yeah, the whole point is people can't put them in a dolly and take them away.
Right.
You know, most of the time I don't even fill it with sand. We just set them out there.
Okay.
For most
I think that would be the thing to do initially.
Right. You need to fill it with sand.
So with that, Madam Mayor, there would be a motion to approve the FF&E number 2 with KBM Hoag as amended.
Yes, please. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Anthony, can we get
Member Hawkins?
Yes.
Councilmember DeGolia?
Yes.
Councilmember Widmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lemprus?
Aye.
And Mayor Lewis?
One moment, the city attorney's got to.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure that there was no public comment. I don't see anyone, but for the record, I don't see that there's public comment before the vote.
Layla made a lot of comments.
She's not a member of the public. She's our vendor. She's our consultant. She's been so helpful.
So I would like to say a couple things that I was trying to mute myself and I wasn't able to. There was a comment about next day, if you don't like something, you could, buy something else. The discounts that we've afforded to the town of Atherton would apply whether it's one item or 1,000,000, 100, whatever it is. So you guys are getting the deepest discounts. So if anybody wants to buy any of these, like Mayor Lewis, you are more than welcome to. You get the same discount. I'd be more than happy to give that to you. So for the lobby chairs, what you have chosen is absolutely beautiful. I think it meets the design aesthetic of your lobby. But if something changes, we will fix it for you and make it right.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's reassuring. Okay.
And George, you can buy a whole second desk and everything for your home office since you're there a lot. That way you can have the same stuff all over with the desk that rises and falls.
So
it does not
Councilmember
fall.
Whitmer, I think you're overstepping your authority at this point. So we've just passed this. So let's move on. Is there something else we need to do here?
Yes. So the second part of this item and the last part of this item, let me scroll back out here. Thank you, Leila, for your participation tonight.
Pleasure.
right down, is the pathway.
Yeah.
So WRNS SWA put together 3 design proposals, and I don't know if anyone from WRNS is on the line tonight. I don't think so.
They are not.
We don't have anyone.
Okay. So you have the original design for the space, which had a couple of benches over here and the bricks in front of the historic town hall. And then the subcommittee of Councilmember DeGolia and Councilmember Widmer looked at 3 design proposals put together by WRNS and SWA. The first was a meandering path, which what they call meander. And it's pavers out in front of historic town hall, and it comes out through the Diodoras, moves over toward the planter bed here in the middle before the council chambers, and then spins around the council chambers to meet up with the new door. That's one design. The second was a driftwood, what they're calling driftwood, which is a little more ragged path here in front of historic town hall, which arcs around one of the Diodoras instead of going through the Diodoras. This is removed. Your arcs around the Diodor, and then in the center here are larger paver areas, maybe potentially for the larger donors, and then it wraps around the seat bench wall of this planter bed here. It doesn't actually connect to the council chambers, but it wraps around the planter bed in front of the new council chambers. The third
We didn't pick that one.
The third is what they're calling the clearing, which is still going in front of the historic town hall here with bricks, pavers, now comes back through the Diodors and reaches around the planter bed as sort of a wrench approach around that planter bed. The subcommittee felt that the best alternative design was the meander path, with the suggestion that it be kind of evened off here instead of arcing up into this little section here. If everyone can see that, this little section is eliminated, and that the benches that were here be retained as well over near historic town hall. So there's seating area in front of historic town hall as well. And then with respect to materials and design of the brick, there were several proposals put out there or options put out there by WRNS, but the subcommittee felt that the running bond with the soldiered brick border and antique glaze would be the best approach in terms of what the pathway would look like. And then with the etching on the stones, they felt that this provided the best type of design for etching of the donor names on the stones. So they're open for feedback and direction, and we can refine this with WRNS based on the feedback of the council this evening, and then put together a final design and actually get that to SWA or SJA for pricing. None of that's been done yet because we need a design to do that.
All right. Okay. Any questions for the ad hoc committee about these selections? Any member of the public have a question for the ad hoc committee on these selections?
I think Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian has her hand up, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, in the different paths, only one of them connected to the, is there a door over there? There's only one of the choices connected on the other side. Is that correct?
Yes.
On which others? Oh, to the council chambers?
Yes.
Go to the next one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is the meander is the only one that connects those two. Is that a traffic pattern that we need to provide for? How can you not
There
have?
is an existing, all of this is a DG pathway. So there's already a traffic routing that runs around this planter bed in the middle.
What is the material of that?
That's a DG pathway,
Which
No, no,
is?
no.
decomposed
No.
granite.
It's a planter in the middle.
So
She
this
asked.
this is a planter.
The pathway is decomposed granite, but the purpose of the whole exercise from our perspective was to connect the old council chambers to the new council chambers and to offer to our donors bricks that have their names on them that, you know, metaphorically, they connect the old to the new. So that the whole purpose of doing this was to connect the old to the new, because we like the image and you know,
concept.
I like that. I love that metaphor. I think it's great. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of because people still have to walk on this separate of the artwork aspect of it. And you have what is, I don't know what the DG walkway means.
It's a decomposed granite pathway in the park.
Do we have a picture of what that looks like in your materials?
I
Because
do
it's going to
not.
be sitting right next to whatever you choose. So
I don't have a picture in the materials, but a DG pathway, if you think about the town's park, there's a section of the wraparound walkway path that is actually decomposed granite near one of the
Tan.
platforms.
It's tan to brown.
Yeah.
It's like what the event garden is made of.
Yes, exactly.
So let me just say that this pathway is not going to look anywhere near like the images that are in our report, because it is going to be bordered by decomposed granite. And so you know, it's
That's correct. It's going to be set inside the decomposed granite.
Yeah.
As you see in this image here, this would be the bricks, and this would be decomposed granite.
That's artificial turf.
Yeah, I know, but in our scenario, it would abut up to decomposed granite.
Yeah.
And is there a seam or a kind of a grout between it?
I don't know how that would actually.
Well, see, let me just say this. Whatever pathway we make, it has to have an under support of a concrete. You got to lay down, this is the brown dirt. You got to lay down concrete. You know, then you put your brick on top of it, mortar, and I guess they're doing some sand on top, but that is one reason why I'm wondering why you did the running bond with the soldiered brick border. That would, I guess, give you the illusion of a curb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nicer too.
It looks
but I don't see how you can do your feathering of your bricks when you've got this curb. The running bond curved brick with a feathered edge would be more appropriate. And I didn't see where you had a see this one on the lower left hand.
Yeah, we did.
I don't understand that. I mean, you've got the same pathway basically, just on one of them, the bricks on the edge are turned perpendicular to the other bricks.
That seems to make it look more formal to me, but I don't care. I mean, you know, whatever you want to do. But I didn't see what brick you're choosing. The antique glaze, I didn't see that in our selection opportunity. The Sierra slate is the preferred color with stone image, is on attachment 2, page 32. So I was, or are you thinking that it's the town series or the sepia? I don't know.
Did we address which brick?
We did not. So the architect was making recommendations based on their preferences of the design. But we can certainly go back to them. I think this is.
We're almost done.
A style.
Yeah, that looks like a style. I mean, to my eye, when you look at in the staff report on page 34, the brick that looks older, which is Whitehall, looks the most attractive to me.
Yeah, I like that. It's the used brick look.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go with that. I mean,
Yeah,
the names might not pop out on that as well as they'd pop out on, something like Tuscan or one of these solid colors.
But they'll look like they've been there longer.
But they'll look like they've been there longer, and you can see kind of what they'd look like on page 35. There's OMI on
Yeah.
that one brick,
Right.
which looks okay to me.
yeah. I would go for that, and it would, I think, blend in better with the DG granite. DG, yeah.
So I think that Elizabeth's point that the pattern that we chose, this running bond with soldier border, you can't, I mean, it's kind of hard to feather that.
Right.
When I looked at the images of the, that they proposed in their alternatives 1, 2, and 3, I liked the feathered quality of the paver path in the original. But maybe you can't really do that if you've got the soldiered border.
Right. So I like the feathered path because it just seems to me,
The feather, sorry, let me just finish. This feathered path, if you look at the running bond and the running bond with soldiered brick, the feathered path would have all the stones going in the direction that the bordered bricks go, rather than in the direction that the running bond goes.
Right.
Right, which if you did that, you could do the feathered border more easily.
I just think we want to make it look as casual as possible, because this is this is decomposed granite and planters and natural. We're not creating a formal pathway through boxed, hedged landscaping.
Right. I'd be comfortable to have those bricks essentially go perpendicular, use the path without the border, but have the big bricks go perpendicular to the way they've got them, so that there can be a feathered edge to it.
Yeah.
Going in the same direction as the original proposal, but with the
Correct.
new bricks. Yeah.
Right. The other thing, George, when I look at the image that you've got up there now of alternative 1, I assume, but I'm not certain, that the pathway goes through the middle of those 2 deodars.
Yes.
So the historic chambers is on your lower right.
Right.
Okay, and the 2 dots on either side right there, those are the deodoras.
Right.
And then it comes around, and so this big thing here in the middle, there's an oak tree here, correct?
Yeah, that's an oak. That's a planter. There's the dark black wall that you see there. That's a concrete seating wall.
Right.
That acts as the
planter.
curb of the planter.
And it's raised to what, 36 inches or 18 inches?
Yeah.
17 inches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How wide is the path there? I'm sorry, right where you're near your cursor there, George?
Yeah, I think it's
Path here.
Yeah.
It's got to be at least 3 feet, 4 feet wide.
Let me zoom in here a second. The DG pathway is probably a good 10 feet.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
our pathway is probably 3 to 4 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, I mean, you can walk on the dark gray spot or on the light DG, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the
Because
way
they're going to be flush.
they're going to be flushed.
No
The way
trip.
I'm thinking about it though is this in here, if it's got engravings on it, people probably are going to stand on it and sit on the seat wall and stuff, but they're not probably going to be walking on this path. They'll probably walk along the DG and just cross it about this point.
Yeah, that's
What
probably.
about during rain?
It's
If
permeable.
we ever get rain again.
It's permeable.
So you think we'll be able to walk on the DG, no problem in the rain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the only other question is, coming up to the new council chambers here, right? Do we have steps going up, or how does that merge into our front entrance? And, will that look, do we want to feather out the, why? I don't know. It seems kind of like this little slot, but they've got 7 feet 6 inches, right? That's that dimension there, 7 feet 6 inches in width.
Yeah, it's all DG there. So if we're talking about feathering it like the original, it would
Yeah.
probably look more like that in front of the council chamber.
And come up like that.
Right.
Oh, go to your left a little bit. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
over
okay.
here, it
Uh-huh.
would look like this.
Right.
Which I like.
I like it too.
I like that. Yeah.
I think they should give us the image again with the bricks and the direction that they are in this image, in the original,
Uh-huh.
and with the feathered, but they should go, between the, equally between the trees, and like we suggested, keep the benches that are here, add the benches that they've suggested, but not wrap the path so far around to the right, like you described.
Okay.
Yeah, they need to make sure that they're going between the trees, because we've said that several times, and then they keep giving us a different design.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't like going between the trees.
Well, they did 7 feet 5 inches. See that dimension there between the two little dots right there?
Yeah, I see it. So maybe it's not obvious.
On this one, but not on all of them, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
So
I
anyway,
think we got the message.
So I'll refine it based on the comments. And then would it be all right if I farmed that out to SJA to get the cost
yeah, absolutely.
as well before it comes back to you?
I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. Yeah, I think that's an important part.
I do
Okay.
too.
All right.
I do think we should approve the bricks going to people who contribute $1,000 or more.
Absolutely. I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I thought you'd already done that.
No.
No.
I'm a little confused, Rick.
Staff report says we need to do it.
What bricks are we talking about, Rick? I agree. I think that's what I know.
Well, so the history is that Atherton now had gone out to people and solicited them to contribute $4,000 to get a brick. And when Bill and I talked about it, we felt that anybody who made a contribution of $4,000 or more should get a brick. And then we thought, well, what's the magic with 4,000? Why not offer anybody who gives $1,000 or more to give a brick? And for those that have given less than 1,000, we'll recognize them in another way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you can do big type, small type, bigger type for the bigger ones. I think that. And then we did get some new information about how many, what the level of donors were. I saw that in the staff
Yeah, no,
report.
Atherton now gave that to Bill.
28 donors under 1,000, 90 donors between 1,000 and 49,999, 23 donors over 50,000.
Right. I think once we publish this, there'll be a good number of people that contribute $1,000 to get their name on a brick.
I think so too. Or
Right.
more. But I do think that there should be some thought given to, size of print for larger donors, bigger donors.
But they're on a brick. There's not that much space on a brick.
Yeah.
They're getting their
I think
name.
the
If they
larger
gave $1
donors-
million, they have their name on the big plaque and will
Yeah.
probably be enlarged, which we haven't seen the final design.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's where their names are. The donor wall is to
And they're on the
recognize
donor wall.
donors.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think actually it's nice if all the names on the bricks are the same. So someone who gave $1 million, someone who gave 1,000, they've got their names there, but somebody who gave millions at the top of the donor wall.
And they also have their name on the individual thing.
And they have their name on the plaque, right?
So they got their name in 3 different places.
We're
Right.
getting to, this is a really long, long meeting. This is
True.
one of
Yeah.
our long meetings. Anyway, okay, we made that motion.
Yeah.
Did we do the roll call?
I'll do it now. Councilmember
And-
Hawkins,
Yes.
Councilmember DeGolia,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitmer,
I will vote with it, but I would like to point out again that although Atherton now did say, $4,000 for a brick, they then subsequently changed and said everybody would be recognized in some manner. So I just want to be sensitive to that, okay? I'm willing to go along with what we've agreed. I don't want to belay the thing, but I brought this up before. And I know that there'll be some consternation on the part of at least one of the Atherton Now people. So we need to come up with some other way of recognizing the under $1,000 people.
So let's discuss that as the subcommittee and make a proposal to the council.
Okay, all right, yeah, let's do that. I didn't mean to belay the meet, keep the meeting going. I'd like to see it end too.
Vice Mayor Lemprus
Aye.
and Mayor Lewis.
Aye. Okay. So the ad hoc committee is going to bring us back something to do with, so there are 28 donors under 1,000.
There may
Okay.
be more in the future, you don't know, but.
All right.
yes.
Okay. So do we have any council reports or comments in our final agenda item? Okay. And
My only comment was we used to get done at 10 o'clock when we started at 7. Now we start at 6 and it's 9:30.
well, that's not exactly the facts, but I'll let you say that. I'll like to adjourn. Councilmember Hawkins?
I just wanted to inform everybody, we had the people who, from the EPC, one of our schools created a video and it's going to be part of the Earth Day thing. And I don't know if we should promote that or not, but I just wanted to let everyone know.
Why don't
Okay.
you send the link out to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what video has,
It's an environmental video that was part of Acorn. They're planting trees and making videos around the world. They brought it to our environmental protection agent group, and we got 2 schools for them. So they have one school in San Mateo and Sacred Heart, both which made videos, which are going to be part of a show on Earth Day. And I guess I was trying to ask, I wanted to report back because this was in the loop, and I don't know if we want to promote that or not, since one of our schools made the video.
usually any video that we promote, we view first.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. So I don't, yeah, I just wanted to have the opportunity to tell everyone that happened. That's all.
Send it around.
I will.
We have a thumbs up from Vice Mayor, so, okay.
He can't vote on it. He sends his daughter to Sacred Heart.
Well, God bless them. All right.
And I should let you know, she's actually back now, 5 days a week for 2 or 3 hours a day, first time in a year.
Good.
Yay, my son too.
Nice. Well, stay safe, everyone. Well, thank you all. Thank you for hanging in there. Meeting is adjourned.
All right. See you later.
Bye,
Thank
Mona.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Robert Barone. Bye, George. Bye, Anthony.
Good night.
Good night, Anthony.